Chapter 290. Impossible. Lin Changhe often came to Shanghai. The business of the Lin family was mainly in Hangzhou, Ningbo, and Shanghai. But this time, he specially came to see Yan Chaozong. He had always done things in a straightforward manner, never dragging his feet. The faster, the better. Moreover, as an elder, it was impossible for Yan Chaozong not to give him face when he was looking for a junior like Yan Chaozong. If he couldn't get through to him, then he would talk to the elders of the Yan clan. After all, he had a good relationship with Yan Chaozong's uncle. Yan Chaozong wondered why Lin Changhe wanted to meet him. The biggest possibility was that the Yan and Lin families would join hands to get rid of Qin Shing again. But this time, he really thought too much. Yan Chaozong booked a particularly interesting place, which was Shangshan Ruoshui. Although Shangshan Ruoshui had long lost its former glory, it was still a famous private club in Shanghai. However, Boss Yi did not put his energy on it, and he did not have a capable man like Su Lanqing. However, this was the place where Qin Shing had made his fortune. It was also the place where Yan Chaozong had trampled Qin Shing into the dust. What Yan Chaozong meant was, of course, self-evident. Back then, when he teamed up with Yi Muyang ran to Australia to hide for a few months. When he came back, he was scolded by his father. However, things had come to this point. Of course, Boss Yi would not be cruel to his own children for the sake of Qin Shing, an outsider. However, his relationship with Jiang Xianbang had a gap because of this. However, Jiang Xianbang is no longer the original Jiang Xianbang. Now he is still wandering in Hong Kong and Southeast Asia. Of course, he will not threaten Boss Yi. Yan Chaozong casually called the person in charge of Shangshan Ruoshui, Han Zhengdong, and they arranged a private room. Then Yan Chaozong brought Feng He to Shangshan Ruoshui, and at the same time, asked Feng He to inform Lin Zhe. On the way to Shangshan Ruoshui, Feng He asked curiously, "Young master, what do you think Lin Changhe wants from you? If they want to make trouble for Qin Shing, we have already given them the most detailed information. With the Lin family's influence in Hangzhou, they should have taken action long ago. Why haven't they done anything yet?" Feng He's words reminded Yan Chaozong of something. After thinking for a while, Yan Chaozong asked, "Didn't Yuan Ku say that Qin Shing fought with Lin Zhe at Third Master Wu's birthday banquet 2 days ago? I think the Lin family is looking for an opportunity, or is there some internal disagreement?" Feng He shook his head and said, "I don't know about this. Let's see what Lin Changhe is going to talk about with you today." In Shangshan Ruoshui, it was not easy for a big shot to come. Han Zhengdong had been waiting for a long time. Some time ago, Anji resigned, which made Han Zhengdong very angry. At the same time, because of Anji's resignation, many young masters and artists also left Shangshan Ruoshui. Han Zhengdong had no good way to deal with it. He could only promote Wang Haichao to the position of Deputy General Manager. Although he knew that this guy did not have the ability to set up a big shot, there was no one available now. This was the second wave of resignation in Shangshan Ruoshui. The first wave of resignation was naturally when Qin Shing had an accident. With Chang Baji as the representative, Liu Yuan, Yu Fengji and others all resigned. At that time, he was at a loss. With the help of Mizan, he managed to stabilize the situation. Otherwise, he might have been fired by Boss Yi. This time, Mizan resigned. He did not manage to persuade her. Mizan said that she was going to leave Shanghai. Han Zhengdong really had no way. He glanced at Wang Haichao, who was standing not far away. This guy in Shangshan Ruoshui had an unclear relationship with many artists. He was really more abominable than him. But who asked him to be closer to the second young master? The two were now really bad friends. It was really hard for him to make a move. It seemed that he had to wait a little longer. When he found a suitable candidate, he would kick this guy out so that he would not harm more artists. At this time, Yan Chaozong's Bentley stopped in the yard of Shangshan Ruoshui. Han Jingdong, with Wang Haichao and a few artists, hurriedly came forward to welcome him. He personally opened the door for Yan Chaozong and said, "Mr. Yan, your presence really brings light to our humble Shangshan Ruoshui. Mr. Han is too polite. Is everything arranged?" This kind of small role naturally could not enter Yan Chaozong's eyes. He just said a few polite words and went straight to the subject. Han Jingdong nodded and bowed, smiled and said, "Mr. Yan, rest assured. I have arranged everything. I will take you there now." The reason why Su Lanqing's position in Shangshan Ruoshui was so stable and why Xue Qinyan and Master Lu were so at ease with him was that Su Lanqing had a sense of propriety. He kept a distance from any member. Unless they slowly became friends after a long time, he would not deliberately cater to their relationship. But Han Jingdong was just the opposite. He always wanted to build a good relationship with every member. He was even more painstaking for the VIP members. This made many people more and more disgusted, so they gradually did not come to Shangshan Ruoshui. Wang Haichao, a small character, still wanted to get close to Yan Chaozong, but was directly blocked outside by Feng He. His expression was very awkward, but he still smiled. He really did not have any backbone. Yan Chaozong deliberately asked, "Mr. Han, why did I not see Mizan this time? Mizan is the flower of Shangshan Ruoshui." Han Jingdong sighed and said, "Mr. Yan, you may not know, but Mizan has already resigned last month. Maybe she has already left Shanghai." "Oh, no wonder I heard from my friend that he had seen Mizan in another city. I thought it was my friend's mistake. It seems that it should be true," Yan Chaozong said casually. Han Jingdong wondered, "Mr. Yan, do you know where Mizan went?" "Of course I know. She is now in Hangzhou, working as a general manager for someone else." Mr. Han also knows this person. Anyway, Lin Changhe had not come yet. On the way to the box, Yan Chaozong teased Han Jingdong. Han Jingdong was even more curious. Even Wang Haichao, who was next to him, was waiting for Yan Chaozong's answer. Yan Chaozong deliberately paused for a while before replying, "This person is called Qin Xing." Yan Chaozong's words made Han Jingdong and Wang Haichao stunned. Qin Xing, who had disappeared for so long, actually appeared and poached Mizan. This was shocking news. Yan Chaozong ignored them and entered the box under the guidance of the artist. Feng He guarded at the door of the box and did not let anyone disturb Yan Chaozong. Of course, Yan Chaozong knew Han Jingdong's mood at the moment. When he was dealing with Qin Xing, Han Jingdong did a lot of work. If he did not lure Chang Baji away, Yan Chaozong would not let Qin Xing fall into trouble so easily. Qin Xing was still alive now. How could Han Jingdong not be afraid? Of course, he was afraid that Qin Xing would take revenge on him. In other words, Qin Xing might not be able to deal with Yan Chaozong and Yi Muyang, but it was still possible for him to deal with him. Yan Chaozong waited for less than 10 minutes before Lin Changhe's phaeton drove into Shangshan Ruoshui. This was his car in Shanghai. He was not as high-profile as Lin Changting, who used Rolls-Royce everywhere. Although Rolls-Royce was too common for the local tycoons in Yangtze River Delta, Lin Changhe still liked to be low-key. Han Jingdong had already returned to the office. Wang Haichao led Lin Changhe to the box. Feng He nodded to Lin Changhe and then opened the door to let him in. Yan Chaozong, who was on the phone, immediately hung up and greeted him with a polite smile. "Uncle Lin, we haven't seen each other for a long time. I didn't expect you to take the initiative to find me." As an elder, Lin Changhe smiled confidently and said, "Chaozong, I haven't seen you for 2 years. You're getting more and more energetic. No wonder your uncle often praises you in front of me." "Uncle Lin, you're too polite." Yan Chaozong did a good job of showing his face. Then he welcomed Lin Changhe in and said, "Uncle Lin, please take a seat. I'll pour you a cup of tea. I've ordered the dishes. I'm afraid you'll be hungry. They're all authentic local dishes. I'm sure you'll be used to them." Lin Changhe shook his head and said, "I don't have any requirements for food. Then Yan Chaozong immediately ordered the artists to serve the dishes. At the same time, he opened a bottle of superior red wine. After the dishes and wine were served, the two of them drank and chatted about family trifles, as well as the origin and stories of the two families. Yan Chaozong toasted Lin Changhe a few more times. When the atmosphere was almost ready, Yan Chaozong took the initiative and said, "Uncle Lin, I don't know what you want from me this time. If you need any help, just tell me." Yan Chaozong's strategy of taking a step back was appropriate. However, Lin Changhe was not easy to deal with. He chuckled and said, "Chaozong, I don't need any help. If I really need help, I'll ask your uncle." Yan Chaozong pretended to be confused and said, "Then I don't understand." Lin Changhe said slowly, "Chaozong, you and Su have known each other since childhood. You can be considered as childhood sweethearts. I know the relationship between you two, but I don't know that you like Su. That's why our families intend to matchmake you two." Yan Chaozong interrupted Lin Changhe and said, "Uncle Lin, I know all about these things." Lin Changhe continued, "However, marriage is no longer a matter of parents' order or matchmakers' words. In this era, people are free to love. Although we intend to matchmake you two, we can't control Susu's will. So I apologize on behalf of her." Lin Changhe's attitude was very sincere. Yan Chaozong did not dare to take it for granted. He said in a hurry, "Uncle Lin, as a junior, I really can't afford to apologize." Yan Chaozong had already figured out the general meaning of Lin Changhe's words, but it was still a little vague. However, he was sure that it was different from what he thought. So he said, "Uncle Lin, what do you want to say? Just say it. As a junior, I will definitely give you face as long as it's within my ability." Lin Changhe looked at Yan Chaozong's face and said in a low voice, "Chaozong, you know that Su completely broke off the relationship with the Lin family for that man. They haven't contacted each other for more than half a year. Now the old lady misses her so much that she is sick. She talks about her granddaughter every day. She just wants to see her before she passes away. Although what Su did made us very angry and disgraced the Lin family, filial piety is the most important of all virtues. As children, no matter how tough we are, we have to lower our heads to the old lady at this time. So I tried my best to find Su and wanted her to go home. However, she was still determined and wanted us to accept Qin Xing. Only in this way would she be willing to go home. She also said that she was pregnant with Qin Xing's child, which put us in a difficult position. We can't let two people die at the same time. So Lin Changhe's words were like a needle stabbing into Yan Chaozong's heart. Lin Su was pregnant? No one expected that Lin Changhe could be so cruel. If Lin Su and Qin Xing knew about it, they would probably be stunned. At this moment, if Yan Chaozong still could not figure it out, he would be stupid. He waved his hand to interrupt Lin Changhe and directly concluded, "Uncle Lin, I understand. You came to me to ask me to forgive Qin Xing and Lin Su, right?" Lin Changhe sighed and said, "Since it has come to this, there is nothing I can do." Chapter 291. Whose idea? Yan Chaozong was a little unhappy when he knew Lin Changhe's intention. What did the Lin family think of him? When he heard that Lin Su was pregnant, Yan Chaozong's scar was completely opened. How could he not be angry? Lin Su was his wife and the mother of his future child. Now she was taken advantage of by Qin Xing. How could he forgive her? Not to mention the things that had happened in the past. How could the grudges between him and Qin Xing be resolved so easily? Based on his understanding of Qin Xing, he was definitely a person who would definitely take revenge. He didn't do it now because he didn't have the strength. Once he had the strength, he would definitely not let anyone go. Therefore, Yan Chaozong would never agree to forgive Qin Xing. Yan Chaozong's words completely blocked the topic. Lin Changhe's reaction was also within his expectation. No man would agree easily. After all, Qin Shing took Lin Su away, and made the Yen family and Yen Chaozong lose face. How could he make Yen Chaozong change his mind with just a few words? Lin Changhe didn't stop there. He kept silent for a while to give Yen Chaozong a chance to take a breath. After a few minutes, he said again, Chaozong, it's been a long time. You can't force love. If you really like Susu, you should support her choice. Moreover, she and Qin Shing are like this now. Do you really want to fight to the death? Why do you have to do this? Yen Chaozong shook the wine glass and enjoyed the intoxicating smell of the red wine and the quilt. He sneered and said, Uncle Lin, it seems that the Lin family has already accepted Qin Shing. TSK, TSK, TSK. The Lin family is really interesting. To be honest, if I really had to choose, I would definitely choose you. The whole Lin family also has the same attitude. Qin Shing and you are totally different. But Qin Shing and Lin Su are like this now. Will you still accept her? Even if you can accept her, will the Yen family accept her? Both the Yen family and the Lin family are big families who care about their reputation. We can't do this kind of thing. What can the Lin family do now? As for the thing between you and Susu, we can only feel sorry for her. After all, the Lin family has an unfilial daughter. We're so angry that we can't do anything about it. Lin Changhe said tactfully. He saved the face of the Lin family, and also made the Yen family and Yen Chaozong feel comfortable. Yen Chaozong thought for a while, and suddenly asked playfully, Uncle Lin, have you seen Qin Shing? To tell you the truth, I have. Susu can't hide it from Qin Shing, Lin Changhe said honestly. Yen Chaozong continued asking, Can you represent Qin Shing? This is not only my idea, but also Qin Shing's idea. What else can he do? Susu is pregnant with his child. How can he take Susu to wander from place to place? Any responsible man would not do that, Lin Changhe said in a low voice. Yen Chaozong picked up the bracelet and played with it. There were only him and Lin Changhe in the room. There were no artists serving them. It did not occur to him that Qin Shing would make such a choice. Qin Shing gave in so quickly. Could it be that Qin Shing knew that it was him who had done it? Or, as Lin Changhe said, he had no other choice? I didn't expect him to admit defeat. Isn't he a man of integrity? Yen Chaozong said sarcastically. Lin Changhe had a good impression of Yen Chaozong in the past. However, Yen Chaozong's attitude today made him feel quite uncomfortable. Still, he said patiently, Chaozong, how do you think he will face you? With his current ability, if you really want to deal with him, it will be very easy. Uncle Lin, tell me. How can he apologize to me? How can I forgive him? Yen Chaozong Yang said. Lin Changhe Yang looked calm, but he was controlling his temper. It's your business. You can talk about it in person. It has nothing to do with the Lin family. I'm here on behalf of the Lin family because we care about the Yen family. We won't change our relationship with the Yen family because of anyone. Uncle Lin, you're right. The relationship between the Lin family and the Yen family is more important than anything else. Yen Chaozong Yang said politely. But he sneered in his heart. You can ignore the Yen family. Do you have the guts to offend us? Lin Changhe Yang said directly, Chaozong, you've said so much. What do you mean? Yen Chaozong Yang had already thought of a solution. He said, Uncle Lin, you've said so much. How can I not respect you and the Yen family? I promise you that I will meet Qin Shing. But I'm not sure what will happen in the end. You decide the time and place. Good. I told you that Chaozong is a generous man. Lin Changhe Yang was happy. As long as he took the first step, Yen Chaozong would let him go. Then it would be up to Qin Shing. Lin Changhe Yang didn't need to stay here anymore. He was an elder. What could he say to Yen Chaozong Yang? Yen Chaozong asked Feng He to see him off. After a while, Feng He came back. Seeing Yen Chaozong Yang's face, he frowned and said, Young Master Lin Changhe? Feng He, it's the same as you think. The Lin family is a joke. No wonder it's getting worse. Yan Chaozong scolded. Feng He was surprised. Did the Lin family choose Qin Sheng? More or less. Lin Changhe wants me to forgive Qin Sheng and Lin Su. How dare he? I, Yan Chaozong, have never been a generous person. Qin Sheng and I are already in this state. How can I forgive him? If I don't kill the danger in the cradle, I'll be the one to suffer. Yan Chaozong squinted. Feng He said thoughtfully, the Lin family is afraid of offending the Yan family. They have to get our permission. If we don't agree, they don't have the gut. You're right. This is the real reason why Lin Changhe asked me, Yan Chaozong said quietly. Feng He asked tentatively, Young master, what do you think? It's impossible to forgive him. But I have to see Qin Sheng. I want to know whether it's Lin Changhe's idea or his. Yan Chaozong said playfully. This was his strategy. He not only wanted to humiliate Qin Sheng, but also wanted to play with him. He wanted Qin Sheng to live a life worse than death. Far away in Hangzhou, Qin Sheng, who was accompanying Chowda to entertain some leaders, sneezed twice. He had no time to think about what Lin Changhe had said. He was thinking about how to deal with the current situation. The storm did not grow. It was also suppressed by the efforts of all parties. The deputy director had been confirmed to retire and no longer managed any specific affairs. Many people in the provincial department and the municipal bureau were scolded, but someone had to take the blame. This was not what Qin Sheng considered. But he still had to deal with the aftermath. That was why Chowda invited these friends who could really help him tonight. A skinny camel is still bigger than a horse. Chowda still had this ability. Besides, Brother Luo had also contacted some people, so there should be no problem. Chang Baji and the others should be released in the next 2 days. Chowda, who had not asked for help for a long time, humbled himself again tonight. He smiled and drank with many people, which made Qin Sheng feel touched. Chowda was also a big man, but he still had to bow down when something happened. Sometimes power was more useful than wealth, and it made people yearn for it more. People who had wealth could enjoy whatever they wanted, but people who had power could not abuse their power. At about 10 o'clock, Qin Sheng and Chowda saw off the big shots one after another. Chowda, who had drunk under special circumstances, was still sober at this moment. Uncle Chow, are you okay? Qin Sheng asked with concern. Chowda walked a little unsteadily, swaying from side to side. He quickly held Qin Sheng's arm and said, Let me go in and sit for a while. I won't go back tonight. Call your Aunt Ji later. Qin Sheng nodded and hurriedly helped Chowda walk back to the villa. Then he ordered the servant to make a pot of pu-er tea to sober him up and personally poured a cup of tea for Chowda. After Chowda drank 2 cups of tea, he felt much better. Qin Sheng, do you know why I don't like this circle? Chowda asked after coming to himself. Qin Sheng was a little surprised. He did not know why Chowda suddenly said this. Before he replied, Chowda continued, Do you know what I wanted to do when I was young? I just wanted to be a teacher, teaching students Chinese, history, or geography. If I was interested, I would teach them some principles, but they might not listen. After that, I was pushed by someone for no reason. I walked forward step by step, all the way until a few years ago. I began to lose my principles, my bottom line, and my original heart. After that serious illness, I suddenly realized that besides money and so-called status, I had nothing else. Everyone wore a different mask when facing me. Even my wife and children were like strangers to me. Suddenly, I was a little afraid that I would see myself lying on the sickbed alone when I was old. So I made up my mind to give up everything I had and just wanted to live the life I wanted. Chowda said a lot of words intermittently while he was drunk. That's right. I don't know what to do. Qin Sheng did not know why Chowda was so emotional. He just listened quietly. Chowda sighed and said, Nowadays, I hate social gatherings, drinking parties, and hypocrisy. I only want to spend time with my wife and children, occasionally invite a few friends to play golf, drink some tea, and talk about the frivolous past when I was young and frivolous, or talk about family trivia. Tonight is the first time I've had a serious social gathering since I was seriously ill." Qin Shing blamed himself and said, "Uncle Chow, it's my fault this time. I'm not able to handle it. As I said, don't blame yourself. They didn't come for you, but for me. When I chose to give up all this, I knew that this day would come sooner or later. After all, I offended a lot of people in the past. I owe them all and I have to pay them back sooner or later. So I asked you to take over because I'm afraid that Chao Zhang can't handle these things. Don't blame me for being selfish." Chao Da smiled bitterly. The wine tonight really made him feel very uncomfortable. Those people's faces made him feel disgusted. How could he not know what they meant behind their backs? Their help was not in vain. Chao Da smiled bitterly. Qin Shing shook his head quickly and said, "Uncle Chow, I can understand. I should thank you for giving me this opportunity and platform. Otherwise, I don't know what to do." Chao Da continued, "Qin Shing, I don't know what you've been through, but I know that you hide everything in your heart and won't and can't tell anyone. But I think the experience of someone who has been through tells you not to give up too many things that you should persist in when you're young for some insignificant things. Sometimes you have to get what you want. If not, don't force it. Otherwise, you'll get nothing." Chao Da's words obviously had a deeper meaning. After all, he knew Qin Shing's real background. For Qin Shing, as long as he had an identity, he could easily get those things that others struggled for several lifetimes. It was at this time that Qin Shing had to stick to his heart. Otherwise, he would only be left with regret. Qin Shing was very grateful and said, "Uncle Chow, thank you for your teachings." Chao Da was a little tired. He raised his hand and asked Qin Shing to send him back to the room. He had said what he needed to say. It was up to Qin Shing to understand it. He could not directly tell Qin Shing that his father was the famous Qin Chang'an in Siju City, and he could have anything he wanted. Chapter 292. When? I've been busy for the whole day. Sorry for updating late. 4 young people, every senior who had experienced the ups and downs of great storms was a rare and precious treasure. They would help you avoid many detours. Even if you listened to 2 out of 10 of their words, it would still be of great help to you. It was just that it was very difficult for most people to meet them. Qin Shing felt that he was very lucky. When he was young, he had his grandfather's teachings. Every day, he was influenced by what he saw and heard, which made him understand a lot of principles. It directly affected his worldview and made him more skillful in life and doing things in the future. This was something that many people could not compare to. When he was studying, he met Uncle Lin, a big boss in the business world for many years. Every day, he instilled correct ideas and concepts into Qin Shing and brought him to see all kinds of people and the world. After his grandfather passed away, more than 2 years of traveling made Qin Shing gradually settle these things. After all, theories were theories. Only after they had been verified and experienced could they be turned into his own things. After returning to the city, first there was Han Guoping, then there was Jiang Xianbang, and now there was Chao Da. Qin Shing really felt that he was lucky. God was kind to him. What were the hardships and lows that he had experienced? This was the path he had chosen. Whether he cried, laughed, scolded, was tired, stood, or knelt, he could only persevere. Unless he told himself that he really could not take it anymore and should just give up. Before he gave up, he had to keep going. Chao Da was just expressing his feelings as someone who had been through it. He did not know the situation that Qin Shing was facing. He wanted Qin Shing to have a sense of propriety and know how to make choices in the future. He could not let go of some things that he had been holding on to because he was anxious for quick result. However, when Qin Shing heard this, he naturally thought too much. What he thought was to stick to his principles and fight to the death with Yan Chaozong, regardless of the final result and the future of the group of people around him. or to let go of his principles and bottom line and compromise. Even if he was stepped into the dust, he would face everyone calmly. In this way, at least he could keep this pretty good job. He could let Lin Su live a peaceful and happy life. He could let others not have to go through ups and downs with him. What Chowda said was just the general direction. As for how to do it specifically, Qin Shing still had to put himself in his shoes and think about it. Looking back on many things, it was just that he had no choice but to do so. Under the current circumstances, he had to make the most suitable choice. This was Qin Shing's only choice. He also wanted to stick to his principles and bottom line. He also did not want to lower his head to others. But could it be okay if he did not want to? On the way back to the Golden Coast, Gu Qingyang said with concern, "Brother Qin, I can see that you are somewhat tired these 2 days. Go to bed early tonight. I will be waiting downstairs. You can call me anytime if you need anything." Poly International's accident, Chang Baji's predicament, and Qin Shing's current predicament made Gu Qingyang understand a lot of things. This was the reason why he had entered the secular world. It was no wonder that when Uncle Master brought him down the mountain, he told him that to leave the world was to cultivate the body, and to enter the world was to cultivate the mind. As Hao Lei and the others were busy, Gu Qingyang became Qin Shing's full-time driver. At the same time, he helped Qin Shing to give orders. After all, sometimes Qin Shing was too busy to attend to them. Upon hearing this, Qin Shing smiled knowingly and said, "Qingyang, thank you for your help these days. Brother Qin, this is my responsibility and also what Uncle Master asked me to do. You don't have to be so polite. No matter what you need to do, you only need to tell me. I will not refuse." Gu Qingyang said somewhat impulsively. He just felt that he could not help Qin Shing at all and could only do some manual work, even killing people and arson. Qin Shing nodded quietly and said, "I understand." Gu Qingyang was honest, while Gu Xiaobo was tactful. Therefore, if Qin Shing was asked to trust someone else, of course, he would choose Gu Qingyang. When Qin Shing went back to the Golden Coast, Lin Su had already come back. She had just taken a shower and was chatting with several close friends through video chat. It could be seen that she was very happy. After all, she had not contacted any friends for such a long time. Whether it was her or those friends who had missed her, they definitely had endless things to talk about. Hearing the sound of the door opening, Lin Su immediately hung up the video chat with her close friends. After all, Qin Shing was more important than anyone else. She picked up her slippers and ran out in a hurry. "You are back? Who did you meet today? You are so happy." Qin Shing touched Lin Su's beautiful hair and said with a smile. It could not be seen that he was under any pressure. As the saying went, no matter how hard and tired it was outside, when he came back, he had to face her with a smile. Based on Lin Su's intelligence and ability, she became a little woman for him. What else did Qin Shing need to say? "I went to the Academy of Fine Arts to find Ruoqing first. Song Chu happened to be in Hangzhou, so she ran over. Coincidentally, there are 2 good friends in Hangzhou. They spent the whole afternoon with each other. Tomorrow, Tan Jing will rush over from Shanghai. We haven't seen each other for such a long time. Many things have happened to everyone." Lin Su held Qin Shing's arm and smiled sweetly. It seemed that she was in a good mood. Qin Shing asked deliberately, "Then how did you explain to everyone that you disappeared for half a year? You wouldn't tell them the truth that you eloped with me, would you? If so, your group of friends must hate me to death. Song Chu and Tan Jing used to say that I was a toad lusting for swan meat. Now that the toad has eaten swan meat and cheated the swan away, they must have the intention to kill me." Lin Su covered her mouth and smiled sweetly. "You guessed it right. I did tell them the truth. They did have the intention to kill you and scolded you a lot. But towards my choice, they still insisted on it. Because I chose love, not to make do, not to choose the right person, not to choose the right person, not to choose the right person and not to choose the marriage. This was within Qin Sheng's expectation. Those who could make Lin Su her bosom friends might have some flaws. But there was nothing wrong with Lin Su. Qin Sheng was not worried about this, because he believed that it was difficult for anyone to fool Lin Su. It seems that they will make things difficult for me in the future. I have to think of a way. Qin Sheng smiled bitterly. Lin Su did not know whether to laugh or cry. At this time, she smelled the smell of alcohol on Qin Sheng. She frowned and said, "Why did you drink again tonight?" "Something happened in the company. Uncle Chow will treat us tonight, and I will accompany him. Uncle Chow is already drunk. Do you think I can not drink?" Qin Sheng said truthfully. Lin Su asked very sensitively, "Is it still about last night?" Although she still did not know what happened last night, her intuition told her that it was not simple. Qin Sheng nodded and said, "It's basically handled. You don't have to think too much." Lin Su nodded and did not ask much. Women should not be too long-winded. Men were originally under a lot of pressure outside. If he wanted to say something, he would naturally say it. If you wanted to know, you would also find a way to know. Lin Su asked Qin Sheng to sit down and then ran over with a pot of tea to sober up. When they were in the villa, Qin Sheng served chowda. Finally, someone served Qin Sheng. He really held his breath tonight. Otherwise, he would have vomited and passed out. "I plan to let Song Chu and Tan Jing accompany me to see a house tomorrow," Lin Su said thoughtfully. At the same time, she stared at Qin Sheng's expression. Now that the relationship between her and the Lin family had been eased, she could use her savings and money from various financial products. She did not need to hide it anymore. Although the Lin family had a lot of properties in Hangzhou, she still wanted to buy a house that belonged to her and Qin Sheng. She wanted to decorate it according to their ideas, especially to give Qin Sheng a big study. However, she was afraid that Qin Sheng would overthink. After all, Qin Sheng was more or less a male chauvinist. Women must respect men. Qin Sheng was so smart that Lin Su would not say things inexplicably. Of course, he knew what was going on. He chuckled and said, "It seems that I don't have to work so hard in the future. My little rich lady is online again." "I am serious," Lin Su said coquettishly. Qin Sheng laughed and said, "Got it? Then I will leave this matter to you. I am a hands-off shopkeeper. In your dreams, I want to buy a similar house. Firstly, we can live in it. Secondly, if we don't stay in Hangzhou in the future, we can also use it as an investment. After returning the money to Uncle Zhuang, the money I have left should only be enough to pay for the down payment and renovation. You have to pay the monthly payment." Lin Su had already planned everything. Uncle Zhuang's money must be returned. After all their expenses during this period of time were borrowed from Uncle Zhuang. The housing prices in Hangzhou were not low. It was impossible to buy a better residential area without tens of millions. Therefore, the money she could use was only enough for the down payment and decoration. Lin Su had arranged everything. Qin Sheng said happily, "No problem. These are all small things. After all, your husband is a gold-collar worker with an annual income of millions. I only have this little dowry left. Now I have given it all to you. In the future, I will have to rely on you. I don't ask for much. I just want to have steamed buns and salted vegetables every day." Lin Su followed Qin Sheng's words and said shyly at the same time. Qin Sheng's original gloomy mood disappeared instantly. He was amused and laughed. He directly picked up Lin Su and was about to go into the bedroom as he spoke. When they were in the bedroom, Lin Su said quickly, "Stop it. I still have something to tell you." Qin Sheng did not understand and said, "What is more important than now? Uncle called me tonight. He has already gone to Shanghai in the afternoon and met Yan Chaozong. He told me that Yan Chaozong has agreed to meet you and asked you to be mentally prepared." Lin Su did not want to be disappointed by this matter, but she still had to tell Qin Sheng so that he could make countermeasures in advance. Qin Sheng stopped smiling and said seriously, "When? I don't know yet. I'm waiting for his call," Lin Su said honestly. After this little episode, Qin Sheng's mood became better. After chatting with Lin Su for a while, he directly went to take a shower. What should come would come. He could not avoid it even if he wanted to. In fact, it was also good for him to name all of them. Yan Chaozong had been hiding in the dark before, so he had to find a way to guard against him. Now he could fight with him in the open. For a few days, Qin Sheng did not have time to rest. He had been running around. Chowda had done a lot of favors, but Qin Sheng still had to do the specific things. With the efforts of many parties, Chang Baji and the others were finally released on the 4th day after the incident. Not only did Chowda help, but Brother Luo also did a lot of favors, including Boss Hu. He only admired Chang Baji and did not care about other things of Poly International. Chapter 293. How to Face It. Anyway, Yan Chaozong and Chu Huanxi's plan against Qin Sheng had succeeded this time. Qin Sheng, Chowda, and the others were embarrassed. What made them even more helpless was that they did not know who their opponents were, which made them feel very aggrieved. Chu Huanxi and Yuan didn't hate Qin Sheng. They just wanted to vent their anger and teach Qin Sheng a lesson, letting him know that Hangzhou was not a good place to live. Yuan had scruples about Qin Sheng, so he didn't show up in public and let Chu Huanxi and Yan Chaozong deal with it. Both Chu Huanxi and Yan Chaozong had powerful backgrounds, so they could be unscrupulous. Even if they did something wrong, there would be someone to clean up their mess. However, Qin Haodong couldn't. At the critical moment, he would be used as cannon fodder. After all, Qin Sheng knew Xue Qinyan and had a good relationship with Master Lu. As for Yan Chaozong, he was more shrewd than these people thought. Didn't he have scruples about Qin Sheng? Yes, because what happened on Mount Jiuhua became a mystery. No one knew what had happened on Earth. Qin Sheng, who was bound to die, escaped from death. Uncle Zhao and the others, who had the upper hand, were all defeated and disappeared in the end. After that, Qin Sheng disappeared for a full 10 months before he reappeared. There was no news at all, not even a trace of him could be found. What on earth happened? After appearing in Hangzhou, how did Qin Sheng suddenly rise in just a few months? These were all Yan Chaozong's doubts. Therefore, to him, the plan against Qin Sheng this time was just a test. He wanted to see how capable Qin Sheng was and who was secretly helping him. He wanted to catch all of them in one fell swoop and would never give Qin Sheng another chance. Speaking of this, Yan Chaozong was a little conceited. He didn't think that the big man behind Qin Sheng might be someone he couldn't afford to offend, because he didn't think that Qin Sheng could know such a big man. Otherwise, Qin Sheng would have used him when he was in Shanghai and he wouldn't have to hide his identity. What happened this time also verified Yan Chaozong's conjecture. There was no big shot at all. It was just that Qin Sheng was lucky. Secondly, he knew that Qin Sheng did not have much power in Hangzhou. Such a small thing could make him suffer like this. What about other things? In the end, which was also the most important thing, Lin Changhe found him. Qin Sheng took the initiative to admit defeat. What else could they say? In these 2 days, Qin Sheng was basically busy with his own affairs. Lin Su was also busy with meeting and gathering with her friends. Those friends all wanted to see Qin Sheng, but Qin Sheng really had no time. Today, Lin Su called Qin Sheng to tell him that she had already chosen a house, which was located by the West Lake. It was a high-end property that was hard to come by. Of course, it was also ridiculously expensive. It had 3 bedrooms, 2 living rooms, 2 bathrooms, and more than 130 square meters. The total price would easily exceed 10 million. Lin Su roughly sent Qin Sheng the location, the information of the residential area, and the floor plan. He could tell that she liked it very much. She could overlook the scenery of West Lake from the balcony, so Qin Xing directly decided to buy this apartment. The rest of the things were left to Lin Su. Lin Su, who specialized in finance, could handle these things easily. Qin Xing did not need to worry about anything. Anyway, he did not need to pay. What was Qin Xing busy doing? They were busy setting up a feast for Chang Baji and the others, who had stayed inside for 5 to 6 days. During this period of time, everyone had been extremely busy, and their mental state was not very good. Taking advantage of this opportunity tonight, they were all happy. In addition to Chang Baji, Liu Yuan, Gu Xiaobo, Deputy General Manager Zhang, who was in charge of finance, and Sister Zhen, the public relations manager, a big sister who had been in this industry for many years, were also there. After dinner, Qin Xing had asked Sister Zhen and Deputy General Manager Zhang to take a good rest at home. They could wait until Poly International opened again. At that time, they would naturally be informed. Qin Xing and the others moved to another place. Poly International was closed, so they could only go to Yunding International. After all, Guanyin Live was being renovated. Qin Xing, Chang Baji, Hao Lei, Song Wei, Liu Yuan, Gu Xiaobo, Gu Qingyang and Tang Shi, who was recognized by Qin Xing, gathered together. Of course, there were no hostesses or singers. Everyone just chatted and drank with light music. Qin Xing picked up a glass of wine and said to Chang Baji and the others, "I'm sorry that you've been wrong this time. Everyone has worked hard during this period. No matter what, we've finally made it through. I'll drink this glass of wine." After Qin Xing drank a glass of beer, the others all picked up their glasses and drank up. This was the first time that they had faced setback. Although there were all kinds of unsatisfactory things, at least the problem was solved. "Lao Chang, you guys can take a rest during this period. I plan to renovate and change the name of Poly International after a month, so as to avoid this period of time," Qin Xing ordered in a low voice. He had already thought about the next plan. Chang Baji nodded silently and said, "I'll listen to you." This time, Brother Luo and Boss who also made efforts. "I'll invite them to dinner tomorrow." "Lao Chang, you go with me," Qin Xing said immediately. As for the other meaning, Chang Baji of course understood. Qin Xing then ordered, "Brother Song, I'll leave Yunding to you and Hao Lei. Don't worry. If anything happens, I'll inform you." Now that Song Wei was firmly on Qin Xing's side, of course, he would listen to Qin Xing's orders. Lao Zhou had been abandoned by Chowda. He was just a professional manager. "Liu Yuan, you take Tang Shi and Gu Xiaobo to stay in Poly International during this period. If there's anything, discuss with Lao Chang." Qin Xing continued to make arrangements. Everything had been arranged properly. Next, it was time to drink. "Why do I feel that you have something on your mind?" Hao Lei, who was sitting next to Qin Xing, suddenly asked. He had known Qin Xing for so many years. Although he dared not say that he really knew Qin Xing, he still knew some small details about Qin Xing. For example, if there was something on his mind, he would be in a daze unconsciously. Qin Xing shook his head and said, "Of course I have something on my mind. It's just that I'm too tired these days. I'm sorting out the cause and effect of this matter, summing up and reflecting on whether I have done something wrong. No one is perfect. We are still young, and the road is still long. Don't push yourself too hard," Hao Lei said kindly. Because since he followed Qin Xing to Shanghai, he found that Qin Xing would take everything on his shoulders at any time. Sometimes these things had nothing to do with him at all. However, he was such a person. Living like this, it seemed that he was carrying too many things on his shoulders and was too tired. "I know, maybe I'm thinking too much," Qin Xing said with a wry smile. He did have something on his mind. Because Yan Chaozong would be in Hangzhou tomorrow, Lin Changhe had already told him that they would meet at noon the day after tomorrow. The location was to be decided by Yan Chaozong. So far, Qin Xing had not told anyone about this, because he was afraid that Hao Lei or Chang Baji would be impulsive. Qin Xing was a philosophy major. Hao Lei knew that Qin Sheng was smarter than him in doing things. He also knew how to adjust himself in time. He just cared about Qin Sheng as a friend. Han Bing's new company will open in 2 days. She wants us to attend the opening ceremony. You're busy these days, so I didn't tell you. She didn't want to disturb you, Hao Lei said thoughtfully. The relationship between Han Bing and Qin Sheng was very subtle. Since Han Bing came to Hangzhou, Qin Sheng had only seen her 3 times. Most of the time, he avoided her. After all, Han Bing was a woman. Besides, Lin Su was there, so she did not want to disturb Qin Sheng. She had to let Hao Lei pass the message. As for Han Bing, Hao Lei felt helpless and distressed. In his heart, Han Bing was a good girl. He and Han Bing had been together for the longest time. More or less, there was some love in his heart. But he knew Han Bing's feelings for Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng was also his brother. No matter what, he could only hide his feelings in his heart. Whether Han Bing would end up with Qin Sheng or not, he would not get between them. Just like he also liked Su Qin in the past. In the end, Qin Sheng and Su Qin got together, and he could only hide his feelings in silence. Until today, he had never expressed it. Some people could risk their lives and give up everything for love. But for Hao Lei, his parents and brothers were the most important. He would be at ease with the so-called love. The world was so big, and he would always meet a girl who liked him. When exactly? I'll ask someone to prepare a flower basket. Han Bing's company was opening. This was a more important thing. After all, he was Han Bing's good friend. Hao Lei replied, "Next Monday." "Okay, I got it. We'll go together then." Qin Sheng nodded. Hao Lei still had something to say, as if he was Qin Sheng's secretary. But many things could only be conveyed to Qin Sheng through him. It was really interesting. So he said directly, "Su Qin will come to Hangzhou this weekend. She wants to see you. I'm just telling you. It's up to you whether you want to see her or not." Qin Sheng was slightly surprised. The wine glass that he was holding was also subconsciously stunned. Since they parted in Xi'an some time ago, Qin Sheng and Su Qin had not contacted each other. Su Qin also did not call or send Qin Sheng a message. Of course, Qin Sheng remembered the conversation with Su Qin's father, Su Yongxian, that night. As a father, of course, Su Yongxian wanted his daughter to be happy and get out of the previous predicament. But things like love were not something he could do as he pleased. So he asked Qin Sheng for help. Qin Sheng sighed. After all, Su Qin was the woman he used to love deeply. Although the past was like smoke and wind, there were still traces in his heart. He said helplessly, "I'll call her and pick her up then." "Okay." Hao Lei was very satisfied with Qin Sheng's answer. If Qin Sheng was really so cruel, Hao Lei would definitely be very disappointed. After all, Su Qin had left the best time of her life to Qin Sheng. Even if Qin Sheng had Lin Su now, he could not be so cruel to Su Qin. Qin Sheng did not talk about these annoying trivial things anymore. He also did not have the mood to think about these things in detail. At present, the most urgent thing for him was how to face Yan Chaozong and how to talk to him. What did Yan Chaozong prepare for them? Chapter 294. Back and forth. Chu Huanxi was the little prince of the nightclub. Except for company affairs, he spent most of his time eating, drinking, and having fun. For him, there seemed to be nothing more to pursue in life except enjoyment. After all, his grandfather had reached the top, and he didn't think he could surpass his grandfather. He never cared what others thought of him. To him, being a prodigal, second-generation, hedonistic son of a rich family, etc., was just pure envy, jealousy, and hatred. If someone else was born into such a family, they would probably be worse than him. Unfortunately, most people didn't have this kind of life, but he was lucky. When he was born, he stood at a height that most people couldn't reach in their whole life. Moreover, most people in this world were ordinary people, who couldn't stand on the stage at all. So, what should he do if he didn't enjoy it? Should he struggle hard? He just needed to keep his grandfather's resources. He thought he was very smart, not because he was conceited, but because it was true. He was very clear about how to behave and do things. However, he had to act like a playboy, which was a disguise and protection for himself. Otherwise, sometimes it was easy to get into danger. For Chu Huanxi, the Oriental Charm Bar on the opposite side and the Queen Bar on the other side were like going back home. Both of them belonged to the big shots on his side. When he came here, he was treated as a VIP, and he often went to these places. Today, he took some playboys to the Queen Bar to have fun for a while. The old master urged him to go home early, so Chu Huanxi left reluctantly. However, he had already hooked up with a returnee who went to the bar. Her figure was really magical, sexy, and tasty, which was exactly his type. Of course, he wouldn't miss it. However, he didn't expect to meet Qin Sheng, who had been taught a lesson by him these days, as soon as he came out. Of course, Chu Huanxi rushed over without saying anything. He liked to beat a drowning dog or hit a person when he was down. Otherwise, how could he find fun? Oh, who is this? Isn't this Boss Qin? I didn't expect to meet Boss Qin here. It's really a pleasure to meet you. Chu Huanxi was drunk and mocked Qin Sheng. Though the people around Chu Huanxi did not know Qin Sheng, judging from Chu Huanxi's attitude, they naturally knew that he was not on good terms with Chu Huanxi. Since Chu Huanxi dared to be so unscrupulous, he must have some scruples. Consequently, they naturally did not take Qin Sheng and his companions seriously and showed a disdainful look. Qin Sheng did not say anything. Gu Xiaobo, Gu Qingyang, and Tang Shi, who were behind him, took 2 steps forward subconsciously in order to avoid the unknown danger. They were doing this kind of dirty and tiring work. President Qin is really impressive. I remember that you were in the limelight in Boss Hu's underground boxing field and didn't give us any face. Why do you want to be in the limelight again today? Do you want to beat me? Chu Huanxi continued to provoke Gu Qingyang and Gu Xiaobo. Upon hearing this, several friends behind him directly went forward to push Gu Qingyang, Gu Xiaobo, and the others. Gu Qingyang and Tang Shi could bear it. After all, Qin Sheng did not say anything. Gu Xiaobo, who had a bad temper, was about to fight back. However, he was stopped by Hao Lei. Qin Sheng, who had been silent all the time, could do nothing but smile apologetically. After all, Chu Huanxi's grandfather was an old monk. Consequently, he said politely, Oh, it turns out to be young Master Chu. Don't you have eyes? Don't you know who he is? This is our young Master Chu. Quickly admit your mistake. Gu Xiaobo was somewhat unhappy after hearing Qin Sheng's words. Since Qin Sheng had provoked him in such a way, why should he bear it? However, Qin Sheng was the boss. He could only admit his mistake obediently. I'm sorry, young Master Chu. I didn't know it was you. Chu Huanxi waved his hands and laughed out loud as he said, I don't have time to care about small fries like you. The group of people behind him also followed him to ridicule Qin Sheng. Gu Xiaobo's expression changed slightly. He clenched his fists and was ready to fight at any time. With his strength, he could defeat this group of good-for-nothings in front of him in 1 minute. He had never been bullied like this before. Qin Sheng smiled apologetically and said, I'm sorry to disturb young Master Chu. If there's nothing else, we'll leave first. I hope young Master Chu will have a good time tonight. Tut, tut, tut. What's the matter? You can't stand it anymore and want to leave now. Chu Huanxi did not want to let Qin Sheng off. He said, I heard that Boss Qin has not been very peaceful recently. It seems that your Poly International has been closed down. Everyone already knows that. Boss Qin, did you provoke the wrong people? Nowadays, the situation in Hangzhou is very complicated. Let me give you a piece of advice. As a newcomer, you'd better be careful. You'd better keep your tail between your legs. Otherwise, you will suffer great losses. Chu Huanqi's words seemed to make Qin Shing understand something. Could it be that the old monk was really behind this? Qin Shing smiled calmly and said, "Thank you for your reminder, young Master Chu. Come on. Let's go. I thought you were a powerful man who didn't even give us face. Turns out that you are just SOSO. Chu Huanqi laughed out loud. Then he shouted at the group of people behind him. This group of scoundrel friends also laughed at the group of men in front of them unscrupulously. They looked tall and strong, but they were just a group of cowards. Qin Shing still had a smile on his face, but his eyes were somewhat vicious. Anyone who was ridiculed like this would be angry. However, Qin Shing really did not dare to turn against them. This kind of price would be too high. Now, he could not wait for this god of plagues to leave as soon as possible. Chu Huanqi was about to leave with his scoundrel friends. However, it seemed that he thought of something. He turned back and walked to Qin Shing. He lowered his head and whispered in Qin Shing's ear, "Don't think that I don't know what you have done in the past. If you are sensible, you should keep a low profile in Hangzhou. Otherwise, you may regret it." Qin Shing was stunned. Then he immediately smiled and said, "Yes, yes, yes." After humiliating Qin Shing for a while, Chu Huanqi finally vented his resentment. What had happened in the underground boxing field last time had been bothering him. He had always been in the limelight. How could he be willing to see others steal his limelight? Today, he finally got what he wanted. Alas, cowards! With a sneer, Chu Huanqi left with his scoundrel friends with satisfaction. Only their wild laughter was left. After Chu Huanqi left, Qin Shing stopped smiling. During the whole process, Qin Shing lowered his head and behaved himself. The people behind him only dared to be angry but did not dare to say anything. Finally, Gu Xiaobo could not help saying, "Brother Qin, as long as you say it, I will do it. I will absolutely not involve you." "Xiaobo, you are presumptuous." Chang Baji was a little annoyed. He knew Gu Xiaobo's temper. However, what he said at this time was equal to adding fuel to the fire and slapping Qin Shing's face. Hearing his senior uncle was angry, Gu Xiaobo hurriedly lowered his head and did not dare to say anything. He was not afraid of anyone except his senior uncle, no matter in terms of seniority or strength. "Lao Chang, it's okay." Qin Shing turned back and smiled at Chang Baji. Then he patted Gu Xiaobo's shoulder and said, "This is not the era of fighting and killing. If we really want to kill him, any one of us can do it. But what should we do next? Who will clean up the mess? You can look down on him, but you can never ignore his grandfather. At that time we, who have made great efforts to take root in Hangzhou, will have to flee in embarrassment. If we are lucky, after a few years, the storm will be over and we can continue to live. If we are unlucky, we will probably have to flee for the rest of our lives." "Brother Qin, I was wrong." Although Gu Xiaobo was very unwilling, he still lowered his head and admitted his mistake. Qin Shing shook his head and said, "Who wants to be a grandson? Who doesn't want to be a big boss? Xiaobo, you and Qingyang have just entered the society. When you are familiar with the survival rules and game rules of this society, you will understand that many things are not so simple." Gu Xiaobo looked at Gu Qingyang, who had been calm all the time. He knew that he had lost some points today. He helplessly sighed. "Let's go." Qin Shing chuckled and said. They drove away separately. As usual, Gu Qingyang drove Qin Shing back first and then left. He would come on time tomorrow morning. The next evening, Qin Shing, who had made an appointment with Boss Hu and Brother Luo in advance, arrived at the restaurant early. Of course, Chang Baji also came. Yang Deng had something to do today, so he did not come. This time, he had made a lot of efforts. After waiting for a long time, the two tycoons walked into the restaurant one after another. Qin Shing and Chang Baji stood up in a hurry and greeted them. After that, they exchanged greetings with each other. After all the dishes and drinks were served, Qin Shing said half-jokingly, "Brothers, I've lost face this time. Thank you so much for your help. Lao Chang and I propose a toast to you. Qin Shing smiled. After Qin Shing finished speaking, he and Lao Chang picked up their wine glasses and drank up. Boss Hu and Brother Luo looked at each other and drank up the wine in their glasses with a smile. Haven't you figured out what's going on? Brother Luo was more or less on Qin Shing's side. Qin Shing shook his head and said, the relationship behind is complicated. I guess the other party is on guard. Anyway, the problem has been solved, and we do not intend to pursue it. If the other party still wants to kill us, they will definitely have other plans. At that time we will naturally know. Qin Shing really did not intend to make trouble. After all, he could not owe too many favors for this matter. After the accident, Xue Qinyan called him to ask if he needed help. Qin Shing also refused. He did not bother Fang Jianping again. As for Master Lu, he did not ask about it at all. Boss Hu appreciated him very much. You did the right thing. You turned a big problem into a small one. Brother Hu, now Poly International, is also closed. Lao Chang said that he has nothing to do these days and wants to find a place to calm down. I think your training base is quite good. Qin Shing took the initiative to lead the topic. Before eating, he had discussed it with Lao Chang, and Lao Chang had no objection. Boss Hu's eyes suddenly brightened. It seemed that his effort this time was right. He smiled in a hurry and said, of course, I welcome you with both hands. I am afraid that Lao Chang will look down on my useless subordinate. Lao Chang shook his head and said, Boss Hu, you are too polite. Brother Luo took the opportunity and said, Lao Hu, how many people did I throw in there? You don't have to ask, do you? Boss Hu laughed out loud and said, ha ha ha, you are too polite. Brother Luo looked at Lao Chang and Qin Shing and said, Lao Chang, don't spoil my bastards. Deal with them in any way. If they dare to resist, I will teach them a lesson later. Everyone burst into laughter at the same time. Favors were always reciprocated. Since Lao Chang had made efforts, Qin Shing certainly had to return the favor. Lao Chang also understood this. Chapter 295. Be prepared with both hands. Boss Hu might not think highly of Qin Shing, but he definitely appreciated Chang Baji. After all, he was a soldier and liked martial artists with extraordinary skills. As a result, he thought highly of Chang Baji. As for Qin Shing, he also loved him because of Chang Baji. After all, Qin Shing had benefited a lot from Chang Baji. As for Brother Luo, of course, he liked Qin Shing more. Qin Shing was a rare young man. With limited resources, Qin Shing had achieved so much in such a short time. Not everyone could do this. Perhaps because Qin Shing did not have many resources now, he could not stand at a certain height. However, Qin Shing was young enough. As long as he was given time, he would definitely stand at the top of the pyramid. Brother Luo couldn't help but think of what he was doing when he was 28 years old. He was still fighting and killing with others. Times had really changed. In the future, it would be the world of these young people. Who was Qin Shing going to meet? He was going to meet Yan Chaozong tomorrow. Lin Changhe, who was the middleman, had arrived in Hangzhou in the evening. Yan Chaozong must have arrived in Hangzhou today. Qin Shing had to meet Lin Changhe at this time. Gu Qingyang was still driving. He had become Qin Shing's full-time chauffeur. Chang Baji sat in the front passenger seat, while Qin Shing sat in the back. He rolled down the window and lit a cigarette. After taking 2 puffs, he said, Lao Chang, I have to tell you something. Don't blame me. I have no other choice. What is it? Of course, Chang Baji could feel that there was something wrong with Qin Shing recently. Just as Hao Lei thought, Chang Baji thought that Qin Shing was under too much pressure because of what happened recently. But obviously, it was not the case now. Qin Shing sighed and said, I choose to admit my cowardice to Yan Chaozong. He is in Hangzhou now. Gu Qingyang did not know who Yan Chaozong was. However, Chang Baji knew clearly that Yan Chaozong was Qin Shing's mortal enemy, the culprit who had almost killed Qin Shing. Some time ago, Qin Shing had already told him that Yan Chaozong already knew that they were in Hangzhou and might take action against them at any time. Chang Baji had felt the pressure from Qin Shing. They had also thought of countermeasures. However, they did not expect that Qin Shing would make such a choice in the end. Was this really Qin Shing? Why? Chang Baji asked. Given Qin Shing's character, he would rather die in glory than live in dishonor. Why did he lower his head and admit defeat now? Qin Shing took a drag on his cigarette and explained, "The Lin family's attitude towards me has loosened up. As long as I admit defeat to Yan Chaozong and he forgives me, they will acknowledge me." Just because of this? Chang Baji shook his head. Chang Baji was not an ordinary person. He could not be fooled easily. Consequently, Qin Shing continued, "What happened this time also made me realize that our foundation in Hangzhou is too shallow. If the Yan family really makes a move, to be honest, we won't be able to hold them off." Could it be that he had to continue drifting? Leave Hangzhou and change to another place? "Old Chang, I'm already 28 years old. I can't afford to go through so much trouble. Besides, I still have you guys. I don't want to disappoint you. And Lin Su, I can't take her with me for the rest of her life, right?" Chang Baji knew that since Qin Shing had made up his mind, nothing he said would change his mind. He could tell Qin Shing that he could let go of everything in front of him, but what about Qin Shing and the others? He could let it go because he was already in his 40s. He didn't have many pursuits in life, so he could just go with the flow. However, with the temperament of these young people, it was impossible for them to bear it, so he understood. "Well, I won't persuade you. But I want to know, will Yan Chaozong really forgive you so easily? Have you ever thought about the price you will have to pay?" Chang Baji went straight to the point without any long-winded words. Although he was not in Qin Shing's position, he understood Qin Shing's situation. In this F***-kept-up society, the weak were prey to the strong. If one did not admit defeat, he would only die miserably. Just like what Qin Shing had said to Gu Xiaobo yesterday, who would be willing to be a grandson. Qin Shing threw the cigarette but out of the car window without any manners. Look, he was not a perfect person. Sometimes he was just like most ordinary people. He rolled up the car window. It was raining outside again. The autumn rain was endless. This season of the year was the most embarrassing. Qin Shing sighed and said, "I don't know. Of course, I'm not a reckless person. If the price is really beyond my range, I will definitely refuse. So let's see him first." "Now?" Chang Baji nodded silently. It seemed that Qin Shing had a sense of propriety. Qin Shing shook his head and said, "No, I'm going to see Lin Su's second uncle now." Half an hour later, Gu Qingyang drove the car to the place that Lin Changhe had agreed to meet. It was a tea house located near Wulin the No. 1. Lin Changhe's home in Hangzhou was Wulin the No. 1, which was the most famous mansion in Hangzhou. Many influential people in Zhujiang had bought houses here. It was said that the cheapest one was at least 30 or 40 million yuan. Lin Changhe had arrived in advance. He made a pot of oolong tea and waited for Qin Shing and Chang Baji. The waiter led Qin Shing and Chang Baji into the box. Lin Changhe did not stand up. He just smiled and said, "I thought you would not come." Qin Shing said calmly, "Since I've already agreed, I don't intend to turn back." Lin Changhe smiled and said, "That's right. Not every young man can be as bold as you. Qin Shing, you really don't let me down. I appreciate you more and more now. A man should have several ups and downs in his life. I believe that you will definitely go far in the future. Maybe the Lin family will rely on you in the future. Lin Zhe can't be counted on." Lin Changhe praised Qin Shing so much. Maybe it was because Qin Shing was going to face Yan Chaozong tomorrow and wanted to comfort him psychologically. Consequently, Qin Shing did not take Lin Changhe's words seriously. He chuckled and said, "Second uncle, I have some self-awareness. At least, no matter what, the Lin family will choose Yan Chaozong, not me, no matter what. Sit down and talk, Lin Changhe said to Qin Sheng and Chang Baji with a bitter smile. Then he poured a cup of tea for them. Lin Changhe opened his mouth again and said, Yan Chaozong is already in Hangzhou. He lives in Aman Fayun. We will meet at the Lingyin Temple tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'll send someone to pick you up, or do you want to go there directly? The Lingyin Temple? Qin Sheng frowned and said. He did not expect that Yan Chaozong would arrange to meet him at the Lingyin Temple. It was interesting. After coming to his senses, Qin Sheng shook his head and said, No need. I will go there directly tomorrow. Let's meet at the gate of the Lingyin Temple. Don't take too many people with you. Don't worry. He won't do anything stupid with me here. Moreover, it is a peaceful place of Buddhism. Lin Changhe reminded Qin Sheng. At this moment, he had to be humble and show his sincerity to Yan Chaozong. Maybe then he would not make things difficult for Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng looked at Chang Baji and said confidently, I will only take Lao Chang with me. Did he trust Lin Changhe? Of course not. Even if he trusted Lin Changhe, he would not trust Yan Chaozong. Therefore, he had to take Lao Chang with him. As long as Lao Chang was there, nothing else mattered. This was the deterrent power. Lin Changhe looked at the middle-aged man in front of him, who was not good-looking but had a strong killing intent. He should not be an ordinary person. It seemed that he had followed Qin Sheng in Shanghai and should be Qin Sheng's trusted subordinate. That's good. Lin Changhe felt relieved. Qin Sheng frowned and asked, Second uncle, do you think Yan Chaozong will really let me go? Lin Changhe's expression changed slightly. To be honest, he was not sure. If Yan Chaozong did not intend to forgive Qin Sheng, it would be difficult. According to Yan Chaozong's character, he would definitely cut the weeds and dig up the root. The Yan family had always done things in this way. Lin Changhe smiled bitterly and said, I don't know. You can talk about it at that time. I won't be involved. He just offered a chance. Whether it could be settled or not depended on how the two young people talked. Qin Sheng smiled knowingly and stood up happily. Second uncle, I will go back first. See you tomorrow. Qin Sheng and Chang Baji said goodbye and did not stay for long. Lin Changhe was thinking about what kind of excessive conditions Yan Chaozong would put forward. After leaving the tea house and getting in the car, Chang Baji said casually, Qin Sheng, you have to be prepared for the worst. If Yan Chaozong does not forgive you or pays a price that is beyond what you can bear, we have to be prepared to face him. Qin Sheng nodded and said, Okay, I got it. When Qin Sheng went back to the Golden Coast, he saw a guest in his house. It was Lin Su's younger sister, Lin Yu. The two women were wearing pajamas, sitting cross-legged on the sofa, watching TV and chatting. Their postures were really attractive, which made Qin Sheng feast his eyes. Seeing Qin Sheng coming in, Lin Yu hurriedly stood up and greeted him. Hello, brother-in-law. Qin Sheng smiled politely and said, No wonder your sister likes you so much. You are so sweet. Is my mouth as sweet as brother-in-law's? My sister praised you a lot just now. It is the first time for me to hear her praise a man like that. Brother-in-law, did you save the world in your previous life and find a wife like my sister? Lin Yu, who was mischievous, said with a smile. Qin Sheng did not know whether to laugh or cry. At this time, Lin Su explained, This girl just arrived in Hangzhou last night. She insisted on sleeping with me tonight. She said that we haven't seen each other for a long time and there are too many things she wants to talk to me about. Qin Sheng said casually, You two sisters, I really haven't seen you for a long time. I will sleep in the study tonight to make room for you. Lin Yu said happily, Brother-in-law, you don't mind if I borrow your wife for one night. Qin Sheng smiled and said, No, I don't mind. After chatting with Lin Su and Lin Yu for a while, Qin Sheng took a shower and went back to the study to sleep. Lin Su had already prepared a quilt for him. After Qin Xing came in, Lin Su said with a serious face, "Hello, uncle." Qin Xing nodded and said, "Okay." Lin Su took the initiative to ask, "When?" Qin Xing said honestly, 8 o'clock tomorrow morning at the Lingyin Temple." Lin Su gritted her teeth and said, "I will go with you." Qin Xing shook his head and said, "You don't have to go. I will ask Lao Chang to go with me. Stay at home and wait for my news. I want to eat squirrel mandarin fish at noon." Lin Su gently hugged Qin Xing and said, "Okay, I will make it for you." She followed Qin Xing's arrangement and did not have any objection. It was a silent night. At dawn, Qin Xing set off for the Lingyin Temple. Chapter 296. Obedience is better than politeness. The updates are not very stable recently, because I am renovating my new house. Since I'm a single dog that's about to enter my 30s, I have to do everything by myself. No one can help me, and I don't like trouble anyway, so I've been as busy as a dog recently. Every day, I run around to keep an eye on things, and I can only write at night. I hope everyone can understand how difficult it is for a single dog like me. As for the plot, the last big climax of the first million words is coming. Please look forward to it. In the middle of October, a cold air from the north hit Hangzhou. Compared with this time in previous years, Hangzhou got cold earlier this year, and there was continuous autumn rain. After the autumn rain and the cold, Hangzhou, which had just passed the National Day Golden Week, was a bit bleak, as if it was lonely after a party. When Qin Xing got up, Lin Su was already up. Lin Yu was still sleeping soundly in the master bedroom. Born in a family like the Lin family, Lin Yu rarely had troubles. At least she did not have to worry about life. Lin Su had cooked porridge and 2 steamed buns. There was a plate of pickled vegetables and Qin Xing's favorite oil chili on the table. Seeing Qin Xing coming out of the study, Lin Su, who was wearing pajamas and had messy hair, said softly, "Eat something before you go." Qin Xing, who was already dressed neatly, walked over and gently combed Lin Su's hair. Then he sat down and ate the steamed buns and drank the porridge without saying a word. He always did not like to talk when he was eating. Qin Xing did not speak, neither did Lin Su. She just quietly watched Qin Xing eat. A few minutes later, Qin Xing finished a bowl of porridge and 2 steamed buns. He wiped his mouth with a tissue and stood up to go out. Lin Su handed the umbrella to Qin Xing and said, "It's raining outside, take the umbrella." Qin Xing nodded and was about to go out. He seemed to think of something and turned back to kiss Lin Su's forehead gently. Lin Su smiled and said, "I will wait for you to come back." The autumn rain was pattering outside. There was no passer-by in the community. Qin Xing's figure looked a little lonely. Most people were still in the dream at this time, but Qin Xing had to face the enemy that he did not want to face. When Qin Xing arrived at the gate of the community, Chang Baji was already waiting for him there. He got in the car, closed the umbrella and closed the door. Qin Xing picked up his phone and began to look at the unread messages in WeChat. There were messages from everyone, but Qin Xing did not reply to any of them. Then, he opened the app and began to read the news. It seemed to be similar to his daily routine at work. He did not feel anything strange. Half an hour later, they arrived at the Lingyin Temple. Chang Baji found a place to park the car. The two of them walked toward the main entrance of the Lingyin Temple with black umbrellas in their hands. Lin Changhe had sent a text message to Chang Baji on the way, saying that he would wait for them at the main entrance. The Lingyin Temple opened its gate at 7 o'clock. In the past, there would have been many tourists burning incense and worshipping Buddha. However, the weather was not good today, so there were not many tourists. There were only a few devout monks. At the entrance of the Lingyin Temple, Lin Changhe, who was dressed in a black coat, had been waiting for a long time, followed by 2 bodyguards. The 3 of them happened to be holding black umbrellas, which made them look like gangsters meeting or doing business. After seeing Lin Changhe, Qin Shing asked in a low voice, "Second uncle, has he arrived already?" Today, Qin Shing looked very serious, and his eyes were full of indifference. Lin Changhe said in a low voice, "He's already waiting for you inside." "Then let's go," Qin Shing said. Lin Changhe and Qin Shing walked in the front, while Chang Baji and the two bodyguards followed them separately. At the gate of the Lingyin Temple, Qin Shing looked up at the three big characters of the Lingyin Temple on the golden board and smiled unnaturally. It seemed that everyone in a high position liked to inscribe word. Lin Changhe had arranged everything, so they directly entered the Lingyin Temple and went straight to the place where Yan Chaozong was. This was not the first time that Qin Shing had come to the Lingyin Temple. No matter whether it was a blessed land of Taoism or a famous mountain of Buddhism, Qin Shing would definitely pay his respects to the top of the mountain every time he came to a place. Therefore, he had been to the Lingyin Temple several times. However, except for the first time, he just wandered around casually. In the Mahavira hall of the Lingyin Temple, Yan Chaozong, who was dressed casually, was discussing the Dharma with a master. Although Yan Chaozong was a rich playboy, he was not an ignorant wastrel. He was proficient in many kinds of knowledge. Although he was not erudite and knowledgeable, he had dabbled in many things and was multi-talented. Otherwise, how could he be appointed as the future successor of the Yan family by old Master Yan? At the foot of the steps outside the Mahavira hall, Feng He, who was wearing a black leather jacket, was waiting for Yan Chaozong with an umbrella. Or maybe he was waiting for Qin Shing's arrival. After so many days, how would he feel? When Lin Changhe and Qin Shing walked in front of Feng He stretched out his hand and blocked their way. Lin Changhe was a little angry. As an elder of the Lin family, even the servants of the Yan family were so arrogant. Qin Shing did not care. He just looked at this ruthless person who had chased him all the way to western Sichuan and wanted to kill him. Unfortunately, they had paid a heavy price in the end. Feng He stared at Qin Shing with his vicious eyes and sneered, "I didn't expect that you could still be alive." Qin Shing shook his head and smiled bitterly. "Do you want me to die so much?" Feng He replied straightforwardly, "Anyone who does harm to the Yan family is my enemy." The two of them met each other not because they were old friends but because they were enemies. Therefore, they did not exchange pleasantries and only talked to each other straightforwardly. Originally, Qin Shing wanted to refute, but he thought that Feng He was useless and did not have the strength to kill him. In the end, he gave up. Today, he was here to admit his cowardice and be a grandson. There was no need to haggle with a dog. Therefore, he just smiled bitterly and did not say anything. Chang Baji stared at Feng He as if he was looking at a clown. To him, Feng He was just a defeated opponent. If one day Qin Shing had the strength to fight with Yan Chaozong, Feng He would definitely be his first prey. However, when Feng He saw Chang Baji, he did not dare to look down on him at all. He knew that Chang Baji was a real big shot. It was completely because of his protection that Qin Shing could live to this day. Otherwise, they would not have lured the tiger away from the mountain and then dared to kill Qin Shing. Unfortunately, Uncle Zhao and his gang were not lucky. "Go ahead, I'll wait for you here." As an elder of the Lin family, Lin Changhe had enough confidence to face Qin Shing and Yan Chaozong. He could be polite to them, but you could not ignore him. Yan Chaozong pretended to be like this. If it was only Qin Shing, it would not matter. But now that he was here, he was somewhat angry, so he directly ordered. Qin Shing nodded silently and was ready to go to the Mahavira hall. Feng He stopped him again and said, "Young master asked you to wait here." Lin Changhe was annoyed and said, "Who do you think you are? How dare you point your fingers here?" When Lin Changhe got angry, Feng He did not dare to say anything. He did not dare to show off in front of the second master of the Lin family. At that time, even the young master could not protect him. Therefore, he could only step back obediently. It was true that Lin Changhe bullied the weak and feared the strong. Qin Shing finally vented his anger and walked slowly to the Mahavira Hall. Yan Chaozong, who was in the Mahavira Hall, did not notice the movement outside at first. It was not until he heard the noise that he saw Lin Changhe and Qin Shing had arrived. Qin Shing was already walking towards him. Yan Chaozong smiled at the master in front of him and said, "An old friend has come to visit. I won't bother you today. I'll come again another day." Ba. Benefactor, please go ahead. The master with an extraordinary bearing smiled happily. Yan Chaozong then stood up and walked out of the hall unhurriedly. He stared at Qin Shing with a slightly sarcastic smile, as if he was the winner. Qin Shing, who was at the bottom of the stairs, also saw Yan Chaozong. He stopped subconsciously and looked calm. He just faced Yan Chaozong and tried not to let Yan Chaozong notice his subtle reaction. They were old friends, rivals in love and enemies. One was on the stairs and the other was at the bottom. They just looked at each other, which seemed to reflect their current situation. However, no matter whether it was Qin Shing or Yan Chaozong, they had won or lost many times. Qin Shing lost his future and won Lin Su. Yan Chaozong lost Lin Su and crushed Qin Shing. In the end, standing on the stairs, Yan Chaozong took the initiative to say, "The fast noodles in Shifang Garden taste good. I eat a bowl every time I come here. Do you want to have a try?" Yan Chaozong's attitude surprised Qin Shing a little. He even took the initiative to invite him to eat fast noodles. However, it was a good beginning after all. Even though Qin Shing had eaten breakfast, he had to show respect to Yan Chaozong. So he said in a low voice, "I'll do as you say." Yan Chaozong smiled with a complicated expression. Then he walked in the direction of Shifang Garden. When he passed by Qin Shing, he did not look at him at all. Qin Shing followed him resentfully. On the other side, Feng He and Chang Baji subconsciously wanted to follow him. However, Yan Chaozong took the lead and waved his hand without looking back. Feng He immediately understood what was going on and did not follow him. Qin Shing turned to look at Chang Baji and nodded. Then Chang Baji did not follow him. Lin Changhe said casually, "This is their business. Let them solve it." He believed that Yan Chaozong was not so narrow-minded and would not mess around in this place. Lin Changhe had done what he should do. The rest depended on Qin Shing. Consequently, he did not intend to stay here anymore. He planned to ask for a cup of tea from a master who was familiar with him in the Lingyin Temple. As a result, only Chang Baji and Feng He were left here. Feng He stared at Chang Baji and said respectfully and provocatively, "If there is a chance, I would like to learn from you again." Chang Baji said in a tone that was neither light nor heavy, "I have never spared a person twice." His words were a little heavy and full of killing intent. Feng He was not angry at all. He sneered and said, "Senior, are you so confident? If you don't believe me, you can have a try at any time. I will wait." Chang Baji did not bother to pay attention to this loser and walked in the direction of Shifang Garden. Of course, he would not disturb the detailed conversation between Qin Shing and Yan Chaozong. However, the closer he was to Qin Shing, the farther away the danger was from Qin Shing. Shifang Garden, which was a restaurant for outsiders in the Lingyin Temple, had always been famous for its vegetarian dishes. In particular, it was famous for its fast noodles. Many tourists and pilgrims who came here would taste a bowl of fast noodles after offering incense. In the past, every time Yan Chaozong accompanied the seniors in his family to the Lingyin Temple, he would eat a bowl of fast noodles. This habit had been maintained. At this moment, there were not many guests in Shifang Garden. Qin Shing and Yan Chaozong sat opposite to each other by the door. Although the fast noodles had not been served, there was an undercurrent. Chapter 297. Naked Humiliation. Most of the people in this world were hypocritical because this society was hypocritical. Everyone had to adapt to the rules of survival in this society, and eventually put on a mask for themselves. You are upright, you have a temperament, but they say that you are ignorant of the ways of the world, and do not know how to be tactful. Hence, Yan Chaozong was also a hypocrite. The polite look he put on just now was just for the outsiders to see. He and Qin Sheng were already in a situation where one of them had to die. How could he be polite? Lin Changhe and his master Shifu were present, so he had to put on an act. At this moment, in Shifang Garden, the two of them did not even order the fast noodles. They just sat there and confronted each other. Yan Chaozong's face was very gloomy. He stared at Qin Sheng with a faint smile. Qin Sheng was still unmoved and faced him calmly. You really dared to come. Aren't you afraid that I will set another trap for you? Yan Chaozong smiled disdainfully. Qin Sheng said calmly, If I say I'm not afraid, even I don't believe it. But if I don't come, will you let me go? I almost killed you once. I let you hide for more than half a year, and you actually lowered your head and apologized to me. Don't you have a lot of backbone? Why are you scared now? Yan Chaozong sneered. He was a little unbridled and did not fear anything. Qin Sheng sighed and said, I'm just an ordinary poor loser. You're the successor of the Yan family, who has a lot of power and influence. No matter where I hide, you'll have a way to find me and deal with me. You'll trample me under your feet ruthlessly, unless I live a life of hiding all the time. But I don't want to live like this. Now that you already know that I'm in Hangzhou, it's obviously impossible for me to live a peaceful life again. Instead of being on tenterhooks, I'd better take the initiative to lower my head. Hee, you're pretty good at talking. You make it sound like I'm an unpardonably evil person. You're an innocent young man, but is that really the reason why you're afraid? Of course, Yan Chaozong would not believe Qin Sheng's words. Although there was nothing wrong with what Qin Sheng said, in his heart, Qin Sheng was a shrewd person. He just knew how to hide it. Qin Sheng said half-truthfully, not entirely. Then go on. If you can convince me, we can continue to talk. If you can't convince me, I can't guarantee what I will do in Hangzhou after we leave Shifang Garden. Yan Chaozong said confidently, as if he was teasing his prey. He did not care about Qin Sheng's feelings at all. If I was alone, as you said, I would definitely not lower my head. I would rather die standing than live kneeling. However, people have to be realistic after all. I am not alone, so I have no choice but to do so, Qin Sheng said as he straightened his back. He was indeed such a person. However, when it came to people like Yan Chaozong who were more suspicious, this was a kind of trick. Yan Chaozong's expression softened a little after hearing that. However, he found it funny and said, Just as you said, you had no choice or I forced you to lower your head to me. But before that, I want to ask you a question that I can't figure out. Qin Sheng knew what Yan Chaozong wanted to ask, and he had already thought of a solution. Yan Chaozong said directly, That time on Mount Zhihua, I took everything into account. How on earth did you escape by chance? Are my subordinates dead or alive? Qin Sheng squinted and replied, You set up a trap. Did I really not notice it at all? Yi Muyang is a rich playboy. How could he call me brother? There must be something wrong when things are abnormal. I just beat him at his own game. When I went to Mount Zhihua, I had already arranged a backup plan. It was just that the timing was wrong. I didn't expect that the killer you hired would be so powerful. I almost lost my life. Okay, I got it. Now I want to know more. How can you make me forgive you? Yan Chaozong looked calm. It was hard to tell whether he believed Qin Sheng or not. He chuckled and said, How can you forgive me? Qin Sheng asked back. He gave the initiative to Yan Chaozong. In this kind of thing, it was not good for him to take the initiative. If he made Yan Chaozong unhappy, then this thing would be over. Yan Chaozong said very seriously, I don't lack money. Neither do you. Power is out of your reach. Background, resources, you don't have them. You have nothing. How can I forgive you? Oh, it seems that you can do one thing. As long as you give Lin Su to me, I will definitely forgive you. All the grievances between us will be written off. Humiliation. This was a blatant humiliation to Qin Sheng. At the beginning, it was a personal attack. Qin Sheng could still accept it. But at the end, it was like rubbing Qin Sheng's face on the ground. Qin Sheng restrained his anger and snorted. Apart from this, do you have any other choice? No, Yan Chaozong replied directly without any hesitation. Qin Sheng also refused directly. It seems that I was wrong to come here today. If you want to forgive me in this way, I can only fight with you to the end. I would rather give up everything. Ha ha ha, Qin Sheng, are you kidding me? Give up everything? What do you have? What do you have to play with me? Let me tell you, if I want to kill you, it's a piece of cake. Just watch how I kill you. Since you don't believe in my strength, let me tell you one thing. Do you know why Poly International was closed down? Qin Sheng was about to fall out with him. Yan Chaozong did not need to pretend. He directly fell out with him. Hearing the last sentence, Qin Sheng's face changed instantly. He really did not expect this. He did not expect that Yan Chaozong was the mastermind behind the incident at Poly International. Lin Su actually got it right that day. This news made Qin Sheng a little surprised. He felt even more guilty because he had implicated Chowda. For a moment, Qin Sheng felt that he was a jinx. He had just returned to Shanghai and met Han Guoping, but Han Guoping committed suicide. Later, he followed Jiang Xianbang. Jiang Xianbang had an accident and had to go abroad to seek refuge. Now that he had finally come to Hangzhou and Chowda gave him a platform, he had to implicate Chowda again. This made Qin Sheng feel very uncomfortable. He stared at Yan Chaozong angrily, as if he had the intention to kill Yan Chaozong. With his skills, if he could not control his impulse at this time, he could definitely kill Yan Chaozong on the spot. However, Qin Sheng really did not dare to act wildly in the peaceful land of Buddhism. Even if he killed Yan Chaozong, the Yan family's revenge would come one after another, and he would not be able to escape death. At that time, what would Lin Su do? What about the others? Therefore, Qin Sheng could only bear it. He had to bear it. Qin Sheng gritted his teeth and replied, I did not expect it to be you. Yan Chaozong laughed out loud and said, There are many things that you did not expect. Qin Sheng finally understood that Yan Chaozong did not intend to forgive him. Today, he just wanted to humiliate him. Even if he kneeled down and licked his boots, Yan Chaozong would not let him go. Therefore, Qin Sheng did not intend to beg for mercy. He still had this bit of backbone. Therefore, he said, Sorry to disturb you, young Master Yan. I will leave first. I will not accompany you to eat a bowl of fast noodles. You are already flustered and exasperated. You can't even stand this little grievance. You still want me to forgive you? Yan Chaozong said disapprovingly. Today's meeting with Qin Sheng made him even more sure in his heart that he would definitely not let Qin Sheng go. Now it was no longer because of Lin Su, but because of the grudge between him and Qin Sheng. If he did not eliminate the root of the problem, sooner or later, Qin Sheng would take revenge on him. Qin Sheng, who had already stood up, smiled bitterly and said, Young Master Yan, you do not want to forgive me. You are just humiliating me. You want me to give up Lin Su? I can't do it. I know you can't do it. Ha 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 ha, I was just joking. Besides, do you think I will still want a woman like Lin Su? I, Yan Chaozong, can find any woman? Yan Chaozong sneered. His words humiliated Lin Su again. Qin Sheng clenched his fists tightly. Yan Chaozong could humiliate him, but if he targeted Lin Su, he really could not bear it. A real man must protect his woman. Whether he could do it or not, he had to do it. What? You can't stand it anymore? Yan Chaozong sneered again. This feeling of playing with his opponent made him very happy. He liked to see Qin Sheng's flustered and exasperated look. Qin Shing's mouth twitched a little, but he finally held it back again. If you want me to forgive you, you can. I will pick a time and a place. You kneel down, kowtow to me 3 times, and call me young Master Yin. I know I am wrong, and I beg you to forgive me. From now on, we are even. Yan Chaozong finally gave him his condition. He thought it was not too much, but it was just a part of his plan. How could he forgive Qin Shing so easily? Moreover, he did not intend to forgive Qin Shing. He was humiliated again. Qin Shing's face was extremely gloomy. Yan Chaozong had achieved his goal today. There was no need for him to continue staying here. He was not in the mood to eat this bowl of fast noodles. It would be the same to eat it another day. So he stood up happily, patted Qin Shing's shoulder, and said, I am waiting for your answer. But I am not very patient. When the time comes, I don't know if I go back on my words. Think about it carefully. After Yan Chaozong finished speaking, he laughed and left. It was rare for him to be so carefree and comfortable. This was the first time he had been so hearty in this matter. The feeling of a lion fighting a rabbit was really comfortable. After Yan Chaozong walked out of Shifeng Garden, Feng He immediately walked up to him. Yan Chaozong said casually, Let's go back to the hotel. When passing by Chang Baji, he glanced at him casually, feeling somewhat envious and jealous. Qin Shing was such a coward, but he did not expect to have such a friend. He was really lucky. Chang Baji ignored Yan Chaozong and walked quickly into Shifeng Garden. He saw Qin Shing sitting there in a daze, still thinking about the condition Yan Chaozong had just given him. Chang Baji frowned and asked, What happened? Qin Shing came to his senses and said, Oh, nothing. Let's go back. How was your talk? Chang Baji rarely showed such concern. Qin Shing shook his head and smiled bitterly. Let's talk about it later. Chang Baji did not ask further. After walking out of Shifeng Garden, Qin Shing saw only one bodyguard of Lin Changhe was here, but Lin Changhe was not there. He asked casually, Where is second Uncle Lin? Chang Baji replied, I don't know. After you went in, he left. Qin Shing did not want to meet Lin Changhe at this moment. He knew that Lin Changhe would definitely ask what had happened. He could not tell him that Yan Chaozong had asked him to kneel down and beg for mercy. So he said to Lin Changhe's bodyguard, Tell second uncle that we will go back first. After saying that, Qin Shing left the Lingyin temple with Chang Baji. The lonely figure and the complicated look in his eyes made people feel sorry for him more or less. Chapter 298. What do you think? Begging for monthly votes, begging for red votes, begging for support, Qin Shing and Chang Baji left just like that. They had stayed in the Lingyin temple for more than half an hour, which was shorter than they had imagined. Perhaps no one had expected this. Perhaps they had thought that when the two enemies met, they would at least pretend to be courteous to each other for a few rounds. Qin Shing, who originally wanted to burn incense, was not in the mood anymore. They held an umbrella and left the Lingyin temple slowly. Chang Baji did not ask much on the way. It was not until they got in the car that he opened his mouth and said, Not satisfactory? Lao Chang, when people are not powerful, they can only be humiliated in all kinds of ways. What they made me do today, sooner or later, I will pay them back double. Qin Shing's eyes were like torches. He was not a person who returned good for evil, that was the way of a saint. He was just a nobody who had a nose and 2 eyes. He would have love and hate, and he would be happy and unhappy. Therefore, he could only return good for evil. In this way, he could live to his heart's content. Chang Baji knew what Qin Shing meant, and it was also within his expectation. He thought that Qin Shing dared to make this choice because he knew what he would experience. But what was the final result? Kowtow and apologize. Qin Shing did not hide and said honestly. For ordinary people, if they offended a big shot, kowtowing and apologizing might be a piece of cake. As a man, as long as it was over, it would be fine. Perhaps many people often kowtowed and apologized, and gradually, they would not feel that it was a big deal. But for Qin Shing, kowtowing and apologizing was equivalent to breaking his legs. He did not know when he could stand up again. This might be more uncomfortable than killing him. Chang Baji was slightly surprised. It was simple for ordinary people, but for Qin Shing, it was like hitting the soft spot. Yan Chaozong's shrewdness and means were still fierce. Then what about you? Chang Baji did not persuade Qin Shing to give up, nor did he say that it was nothing. He just still let Qin Shing choose. After all, he was not in Qin Shing's position, so he did not understand Qin Shing's dilemma. But he was sure that if Qin Shing really agreed, Qin Shing's position in his heart would definitely be affected. He would not look down on Qin Shing because of this, but he would more or less feel uncomfortable. Qin Shing closed his eyes, rubbed his temples and said, "Let me think, let me think." Chang Baji did not disturb Qin Shing anymore. He just drove quietly and let Qin Shing make his own choice. This was Qin Shing's life, not his. He could not make the decision. The old friend that Lin Changhe was visiting was an eminent monk of the Lingyin Temple, who had been friends with the Lin family for many years. The monk, who was about the same age as the old lady, was a close friend of Grandpa Lin. It was an unwritten rule that the juniors of the Lin family would visit him every time they came. When Lin Changhe came out, he saw that the bodyguard in Shifang Garden was already standing at the door. Lin Changhe asked in a hurry, "Where are they?" "Mr. Lin, they've all gone back," the bodyguard reported truthfully. Surprised, Lin Changhe said, "So fast?" Of course, he did not ask the bodyguard how their conversation went. Obviously, the bodyguard did not know either. After thinking for a while, he immediately dialed Qin Shing's number, but Qin Shing did not answer. Then Chang Baji dialed Yan Chaozong's number. After the phone was answered, Chang Baji said, "Chaozong, how was your conversation?" "Second uncle, it seems that Qin Shing did not tell you. We had a good chat. As for the result, you will know in a few days." Yan Chaozong deliberately kept Chang Baji guessing. Second Uncle Lin disliked Yan Chaozong more or less. He felt that this young man was too arrogant. After saying a few words, he hung up the phone. From Yan Chaozong's tone, Lin Changhe could tell that he had won this round and should have reached a conclusion. However, Qin Shing might have to pay a big price. Lin Changhe sighed. Everything was within his expectation. However, Qin Shing was the only one who had to pay the price. Thinking of the ups and downs of the Lin family over these years, if the big brother had taken a bigger step, he would not have been in such a difficult situation now. Although it was not as good as the top, it was more than enough. However, which family did not want to go up? For those rich and powerful families in Jiangsu and Zhejiang, in order to consolidate the family's status and influence, it was an unwritten rule since ancient times. Of course, the Lin family was not an exception. In some places, most of the local industries were controlled by several big families. The relationship between clans might not be obvious in the north, but in the south, the clans had a great influence. This was also the reason why there were more ancestral shrines in the south than in the north. Lin Changhe could not help thinking that if Lin Su had been a boy, such a thing might not have happened. After all, the education from childhood would have been deeply rooted in her. However, Lin Changhe felt lucky that Lin Su was a girl. If she had been a boy, no matter what, the Lin family would not have recognized her as his girlfriend. He would have been excluded by all the big families related to the Lin family. The most famous thing should be the one between Su Jima and Lu Xiaoman. Su Jima was Jin Yong's cousin. In various novels, Jin Yong had a cousin who was always a bad guy. In the Demigods and Semi-Devils, there was a sex maniac called Yunzhong. Su Jima's pen name was Yunzhong. Jin Yong's ancestors were from the Cha family in Haining, Zhejiang. The Cha family of Haining was once called a giant family since the Tang and Song dynasties, and one of the few families in the south of the Yangtze River, by Emperor Kangxi. How powerful was the Cha family to get such a comment from the Qing ancestor? The Cha family of Haining had 10 Jinshi and 5 Hanlin uncles and nephews. The in-laws of the Cha family were all rich and powerful families in Haining. The glory of the Cha family was in the Kangxi period. After Yongzheng ascended the throne, the Cha family was involved in Longka's rebellion. Why? Because the in-laws of the Cha family was the Chen family of Haining. The Chen family not only had a close relationship with Yongzheng, but also was the confidant of Qianlong. In the end, the root of the Cha family's standing was the marriage between the rich and powerful families. For example, Aunt Jiang, whom Jin Yong mentioned, was married to Jiang Bailey of the Jiang family. Jin Yong's teacher was Wang Zhan, the younger brother of Wang Guowei. The nephew of the finance family was Chen Songzhou, a professor in the Chen family. The reason why Su Jima was slandered was that he broke the marriage between the rich and powerful families. He abandoned his wife and married Liu Xiaoman, a social butterfly in Shanghai. The whole Haining family drew a clear line with Su Jima. They only recognized Su Jima's wife and son, and completely ignored Liu Xiaoman. Because his wife's family was one of the financial oligarchs in Shanghai at that time. This was also the reason why the Lin family could be deeply rooted in Ningbo. Because they also had marriage with the rich and powerful families in Ningbo. The Yan family, which could become a tycoon in Shanghai from Ningbo, was also the same. Because the rich and powerful families shared most of the resources through marriage. They were bound together for good or bad. This was the real reason why the Lin family looked down on Qin Shing. It was not because they were not of the same social status, but because the Lin family could not break this tradition. So Lin Changhe sighed. Fortunately, Lin Su was a daughter and not a son. Otherwise, she would be completely abandoned by the Lin family. These things, whether it was Qin Shing or Lin Su, would only see the surface, and would not see the essence of things. At this time, after Qin Shing and Chang Baji left the Linyin temple, they did not directly go back to the Golden Coast. Instead, they asked Chang Baji to send them to Joshi Rose Garden. Chang Baji would go to Boss, whose training base later, so Gu Qingyang had returned to work. Qin Shing walked to the villa of the Chao family. Chao Ying was in boarding school and could only go home on weekends. Chao Zhang, who was already a senior and had no classes, was playing with his little sister in the living room. Their laughter was endless. Chao De sat not far away and read the newspaper. His second aunt, Mina, was playing with her mobile phone and chatting with Chao De from time to time. Her eyes were full of happiness. As for his first aunt, Ji Jing, she went to Shanghai to buy goods. Qin Shing was quite envious of Chao Zhang. He was only a few years older than Chao Zhang, but he had already felt the hardships of life. He had to shoulder everything on his own. However, Chao Zhang did not have to, because his father was there to shelter him from the wind and rain. Yuer had a good impression of Qin Shing. She ran to him and hugged his leg and shouted, "Brother Qin." Chao Zhang said politely, "Brother Qin." Mina looked up slightly and smiled. "Qin Shing is here." Chao De put down the newspaper and stared at Qin Shing. He felt that Qin Shing had something to do. Qin Shing greeted Chao De and the others politely. "What's up?" Chao De asked directly. Qin Shing nodded. "Let's talk in the study." Chao De stood up slowly and asked Chao Zhang to take his little daughter away. In the study, Chao De went in and said with a smile, "It's over. Why are you still so worried? You should let go of everything." "Uncle Chao, I'm sorry," Qin Shing said guiltily. Chao De frowned and said, "What's wrong? I said it had nothing to do with you. Why do you still feel sorry?" "Uncle Chao, I already know who the mastermind is. That's why I'm sorry. If I don't tell you, I will feel uneasy." Qin Shing did not want to hide it, so he said so. "You know who the mastermind is?" Chowda asked in surprise. Qin Shing said slowly, "My enemy." Your enemy? Chowda was shocked. Qin Shing nodded seriously and said, "Yes, my enemy, the Yen family in Shanghai." Chowda was lost in thought and stopped talking. In Amanfayun's villa, Chu Huanxi had been waiting for Yen Chaozong before he came back from the Lingyin temple. Since he came here so early in the morning, he obviously knew about the meeting between Yen Chaozong and Qin Shing. As soon as Yen Chaozong arrived in Hangzhou, he told Chu Huanxi the reason. Chu Huanxi, who was worried about not having a good show to watch, would certainly not miss it. Seeing Yen Chaozong enter the room, Chu Huanxi stood up quickly and said, "Old Yen, how is it? Everything is going according to plan." Yen Chaozong smiled playfully. Chu Huanxi said excitedly, "Did he agree?" "Not yet. I gave him time to think about it," Yen Chaozong replied. Chu Huanxi pointed at Yen Chaozong and laughed. "You really want to play this guy to death? But if he really agreed, would you really let him go?" Yen Chaozong rolled his eyes at Chu Huanxi and said sarcastically, "What do you think?" Chu Huanxi instantly understood what Yen Chaozong meant. Then he laughed. The next plot would be more exciting. Chapter 299. Hiding the truth. At this moment, Qin Shing had completely become the prey of Yen Chaozong and Chu Huanxi. For Chu Huanxi, he could swagger around in front of others, but he did not dare to be so unscrupulous in front of Yen Chaozong. Even though his grandfather could be regarded as the #1 figure in Jiangxia, he started from the gray side and bore the original sin. He did not have a solid foundation or a solid foundation. If there really was a big shot who wanted to deal with them, it could be said that they would be hit with a single blow, and they would not be able to retaliate. There were too many examples in the past few years. So what if they were powerful? Anything that was unclean could eventually be cleaned up. But the Yen family was different. The Yen family was a rich family with hundreds of years of inheritance in Jiangsu, Zhejiang and Shanghai. Now it was even more important in Shanghai. Moreover, there were many direct and collateral relatives, as well as allies by marriage. It was such a powerful force that the Chu family couldn't compare with. This was the difference between a self-made nouveau riche and a rich family. In the study of Jiushi Rose Garden, the atmosphere was a bit awkward. But Qin Sheng was the one who felt awkward. He didn't know how to face Chowda. Although Chowda was a little surprised, he didn't blame Qin Sheng at all. Why? Qin Sheng was supported by Qin Chang'an. Even if Qin Sheng squandered all of his assets, he would not be afraid at all. Because to him, this lifetime was already enough, and he was buying a ticket for Chaozhong, a ticket to enter the top circle. When the time came, not only would he get everything back, but he would also gain a lot of benefit. This was a deal that no one wanted to miss. Chowda didn't say anything. He was just thinking about what had happened in Hangzhou. Did Qin Chang'an, who was far away in Beijing, know? Of course, he didn't know that Qin Chang'an had been to Hangzhou and reached an agreement with Master Lu. What was Master Lu's reward? It could be seen from the recent increase in the valuation of his works by several domestic auction houses. This was Qin Chang'an's power. "Uncle Chow, this is my fault. I caused such a big loss to you. I am willing to take all the responsibility. I will resign." Qin Sheng was a little depressed, so he could only say so. Chowda squinted and stared at Qin Sheng. "Is that all you can do? You have a mental breakdown because of such a small thing? How old are you? What is there to be afraid of? I dared to invest in you because I believe in your potential. This is nothing. Although I, Chowda, have not been involved in worldly affairs for the past few years, a starving camel is still bigger than a horse." Uncle Chow. The more Chowda said so, the guiltier Qin Sheng felt. Chowda waved his hand and said, "You can solve your own problems. If you need help, you can ask at any time. As for this matter, let bygones be bygones. Don't mention it in the future." Do your job well. Go. Uncle Chow, Qin Sheng said, gritting his teeth. Chowda shook his head and said, no one's life will be smooth sailing. If you don't struggle when you're young, you won't have a chance in the future. You can have nothing but confidence and courage. Sometimes you have to be conceited. You just have to tell yourself that you, Qin Sheng, will be a great figure sooner or later. These are just tests from God. When you really stand on a high mountain, everything in the past will just be a joke to you. Go. Chow Da's words made Qin Sheng's blood boil. Qin Sheng was so grateful that he nodded heavily and left the room. What had already happened. Qin Sheng was a little surprised by Chow Da's response. He did not blame him at all. However, Qin Sheng could not pretend that nothing had happened. He could only repay Chow Da's appreciation by working hard. When Qin Sheng went downstairs, Mi Na was about to go out with you. She smiled and said, Qin Sheng, bring Lin Su over some other day. I'll cook something delicious for you. I've been chatting happily with Lin Su lately. Mi Na was not much older than them, so she had more topics to talk about with Lin Su. They also added each other's WeChat and other contact information. They should have a lot of interaction. If such a woman married into a family like this, she might be looked at differently by others, but at least she would not suffer for the rest of her life. It was said that suffering was the wealth of life, but sometimes, suffering could also make people collapse. After coming out of Joshi Rose Garden, Qin Sheng saw that it was still early, so he went to the company first. He basically did not go to the headquarters and let Lao Zhou take care of the specific affairs. He was only in charge of the catering and entertainment. Otherwise, Lao Zhou would be very comfortable and there would be internal friction in the company. Nowadays, Lao Zhou was already very smart and knew how to behave. After all, Chowda had already suppressed him. Yu Fengji was also in the company today. Discussing with Ms. and Qin Sheng gave Yu Fengji a new position, which was the company's vice president. She would report everything to Mizan. This was because Qin Sheng knew that with Yu Fengji's talent, it was a waste of her talent to stay in Guangyin Live. As long as time was on the right track, he could let go. Letting her be the vice president could suppress Lao Yu, so that Lao Yu would not make trouble again. Moreover, recently, Mizan had obtained the agency rights of a few catering brands. Currently, she was in the midst of intensive research and selection of locations. Yu Fengji could be just right to help. After talking about business, Mizan and Yu Fengji were not in a hurry to leave. Mizan said with concern, Qin Sheng, I see that you don't look too good recently. After these things are done, you should give yourself a good vacation. I heard from Fengji that Lin Su is also in Hangzhou. You should find a place to relax. Maybe I've been too busy recently. Okay, I'll listen to Mizan and be a hands-off boss, Qin Sheng said with a smile. Yu Fengji said with jealousy, someone tricked us into going to Hangzhou and then completely ignored us. It's true that when you have a new lover, you forget the old one. Qin Sheng understood the meaning of Yu Fengji's words. He did not know whether to laugh or cry, but he did not respond. Mizan added oil to the fire. Fengji, if you are interested in Qin Sheng, you should do it earlier. Otherwise, when he gets married, you will have no chance at all. I'm on your side. I'm afraid that he won't give me a chance, Yu Fengji replied. Qin Sheng hurriedly laughed and said, Don't make fun of me. After chatting for a while, Qin Sheng hurriedly ran away. Otherwise, he would be hated to death by these two women. When he returned to the Golden Coast, it was already 11:30. As soon as Qin Sheng opened the door, he smelled the fragrance from the kitchen and heard sweet laughter. I'm back, Qin Sheng shouted as he put away his umbrella. Lin Yu, who was wearing slippers and an apron, hurriedly ran out and exclaimed, Brother-in-law, you're back. I want to ask you, what kind of magic did you cast on me? You turned a rich lady from a rich family into a good wife and mother with good cooking skills. I really admire you so much. Qin Sheng stared at Lin Yu and handed the umbrella to her as he said, Don't talk nonsense. Help me hang the umbrella on the balcony. Lin Su walked out of the kitchen and looked at Qin Xing meaningfully. However, she did not ask anything. She just smiled and said, "Wait a little longer. Dinner will be ready soon." Qin Xing laughed and said, "I think I can eat 3 bowls of rice today." At this time, Lin Yu ran over from the balcony and said happily, "Brother-in-law, there is another dish I will cook today. But it is definitely not as delicious as my sister's. Don't complain." "You cook?" Qin Xing was a little surprised. Lin Su had lived independently before, so she had a foundation of cooking before. However, Lin Yu was indeed a fair, rich, and beautiful girl. Even when she was studying abroad, she had a professional housekeeper to cook for her. How could she cook? Lin Yu said unhappily, "What? You don't believe me? I want to learn from my sister. I want to be a woman who can go to the main hall and the kitchen. At that time, I will conquer my future husband with my beauty and cooking skills." It was good to have such an idea. So Qin Xing praised her. "Not bad, little girl. You have a promising future. I believe in you." Qin Xing went to change clothes. Lin Yu continued to go to the kitchen to learn cooking skills. After a few minutes, she called Qin Xing to start the meal. When Qin Xing came out of the study and saw the sumptuous lunch on the table, he was somewhat surprised. There were 6 dishes and 1 soup. Of course, there was Lin Yu's unattractive boiled green vegetables. Based on Lin Yu's ability, she could only cook such simple dishes. If it was too complicated, it would be really difficult for her. In the middle was Qin Xing's favorite squirrel mandarin fish. Lin Su spent a lot of effort today. As a result, Qin Xing basically ate all the rice on the table. He really ate 3 bowls of rice, which made Lin Su and Lin Yu dumbfounded. After all, they had small appetites, so they had to share a bowl of rice among themselves. Although it was Lin Yu's first time to cook, the boiled green vegetables were not bad. Qin Xing guessed that Lin Su must have taught her step by step. After lunch, Lin Yu had something to do and had to leave. She said that she would go shopping with her friends and then treat Qin Xing and Lin Su to a big meal in the evening. This girl was now working in a company of the Lin family in Shanghai. Of course, she was a little rich woman who was not short of money. After Lin Yu left, Qin Xing asked Lin Su to go to rest. He took the initiative to clean up the mess and came out of the kitchen. In the living room, Lin Su had already made a pot of Xingpu tea. Obviously, she was going to ask about what had happened in the morning. Qin Xing did not intend to tell Lin Su the truth, so he could only think of a way to fool her. Qin Xing slowly sat beside Lin Su. Lin Su poured a cup of tea for Qin Xing. This tea set was carefully selected by her. These 2 days, the house had been booked, and she would pay the down payment in 2 days. Originally, she wanted to write the common name of the 2 of them, but Qin Xing did not agree. He said that it was not necessary to write the common name. It was the same no matter who wrote it. His wife would be responsible for all the property rights of their family. Lin Su could not persuade him, so she did not insist. "How was the conversation between you and him?" Lin Su asked carefully, for fear that this topic would make Qin Xing unhappy. Qin Xing chuckled and said, "It was smoother than I thought. He is still the same, the young master of the Yen family in Shanghai, arrogant." "Did he make things difficult for you?" Lin Su asked with concern. She did not want Qin Xing to be wronged. Qin Xing chuckled and said, "It was all within my expectation. But he did not go too far. Your husband is not a vegetarian. How could he let him do whatever he wanted?" "Then what was the final result?" Lin Su frowned and said, "It seemed that something was wrong." Qin Xing sighed and said, "The negotiation broke down." Lin Su looked surprised. Hearing Qin Xing's tone was so relaxed, she thought that the negotiation had reached a conclusion. Unexpectedly, the negotiation broke down. She was confused and asked, "Why?" "He asked me to give you to him. Do you think there is still a need for me to talk with him?" Qin Xing said slowly. This was the explanation he gave to Lin Su. It was a reasonable reason, so Lin Su would not think too much. Lin Su looked at Qin Xing and did not speak for a long time. After a while, she held Qin Xing's hand and said, "Then what are you going to do?" Qin Xing put his arm around Lin Su's shoulder and chuckled as he said, "Don't worry, we should talk again." Lin Su nodded and leaned her head on Qin Xing's shoulder. She did not ask anything else. At least she felt temporarily at ease. What about Qin Xing? He did not know how long Yan Chaozong's patience would last, so he had to make a decision as soon as possible. Chapter 300. He had to be ruthless. Qin Xing estimated that Yan Chaozong would be patient for 3 days, so he had to make a decision within 3 days. Otherwise, Yan Chaozong would not let him off easily. Moreover, he had made such a big scene before. How could he not have a backup plan? Except for Chang Baji, no one else knew about Qin Xing's situation. Lin Changhe called Qin Xing twice, but Qin Xing did not answer. He did not know how to tell Lin Changhe about this. He just sent a text message to Lin Changhe, and the content was similar to what Yan Chaozong had said. No matter how hard life was, life had to go on. Lin Yu would stay in Hangzhou these days. She stayed with Lin Su every day, taking Qin Xing's time. Qin Xing still had to be busy, so he did not notice anything strange. The next morning, Qin Xing stayed in the company for a while. When it was almost time, he went to the high-speed railway station to pick up Su Qin. He did not forget what he had promised Hao Lei. He called Su Qin when he arrived at the station, saying that he would pick her up. Su Qin was a little surprised when she received the call. She had not contacted Qin Xing recently, because Qin Xing seldom replied to her WeChat messages. She did not know whether Qin Xing was too busy or he did not want to talk to her. Anyway, Hao Lei said that he was busy. Therefore, she did not expect to see Qin Xing in Hangzhou. After all, she knew that Qin Xing had a girlfriend now. She did not want to disturb his life, so she just mentioned it to Hao Lei. "Oh, okay. I'll call you when I come out," Su Qin said in a daze. Half an hour later, Qin Xing saw Su Qin at the exit of the high-speed railway station. She was pulling a small suitcase and carrying a black bag. She still had soft black hair. She wore a silver-gray windbreaker and high heels. She was a little dazzling in the crowd. It was just like when she was in high school. She was pure and beautiful, wearing a white dress. When she walked in front of the teaching building, there would always be cheers and whistles. Beautiful women had always been a scarce resource in this society. Seeing Qin Xing again, Su Qin was a little shy. She smiled shyly and did not know what to say. She thought of the time when they were lying in bed together. She snuggled in Qin Xing's arms and chatted until they fell asleep. "Let me hold it for you." Qin Xing took the initiative to step forward and take over Su Qin's small suitcase. Women always brought a lot of things when they went out, such as clothes for different occasions, various kinds of cosmetics, and so on. Su Qin went out with light luggage. Su Qin said helplessly, "No need. I can do it myself." "Why are you so polite?" Qin Xing took it over in an overbearing manner, and did not give Su Qin any chance to refuse at all. Su Qin had no choice but to bow her head and say, "Thank you. Let's go." "Don't stand here," Qin Xing said in a low voice. He had to bear the vicious eyes of many men when Su Qin stood here. However, he had long been used to it. Qin Xing led Su Qin to the parking lot. Gu Qingyang was waiting there. Though Qin Xing was absolutely safe these 2 days, he still needed to be careful sometimes. Su Qin followed closely by Qin Xing's side. Although the continuous autumn rain in Hangzhou was a little cold, when she saw Qin Xing again, she felt warm in her heart. Women were like this. "Hao Lei told you?" Su Qin asked in a low voice. She did not know when she started to be a little careful in front of Qin Xing. She was no longer as carefree as she was in the past. Because she knew that no matter what she did, Qin Shing would spoil her. Qin Shing said in a complaining tone, "I have to say something about you. Why didn't you tell me that you came to Hangzhou? Do you have a good relationship with Hao Lei or with me?" Qin Shing's words were a little ambiguous. However, since he said so, it showed that he treated Su Qin as the closest person. As long as Su Qin needed help, no matter how difficult it was, Qin Shing would promise and try his best to do it. Su Qin looked like a little girl who had done something wrong. She lowered her head and said, "I heard that you were very busy, so I didn't want to bother you." She just came to Hangzhou to relax, and there was nothing important. Of course, because Qin Shing was in Hangzhou, she came to Hangzhou. Even though she might not be able to see Qin Shing, she would be very satisfied to be in the city where Qin Shing was. Qin Shing said with a smile, "No matter how busy you are, since you came to Hangzhou, I have to receive you. Don't do this next time." "Oh, I see." Su Qin nodded silently. However, there was a trace of a happy smile at the corner of her mouth. In an instant, the surrounding air seemed to be warm. Qin Shing's car had already been changed to an Audi A8L, which was also in line with his low-key connotation. When Su Qin saw it, she was somewhat lost in thought. Hao Lei just said that Qin Shing was a deputy general manager in a company in Hangzhou, and did not say anything else. Su Qin was a little suspicious at that time. Now it seemed that Qin Shing was doing quite well in Hangzhou. "I have already booked a hotel for you. Go to the hotel first. Hao Lei will wait for us in the restaurant," Qin Shing said. "Well, I will listen to you." Su Qin nodded. Although she had already booked a hotel, she still said so. She could only cancel the one there. Qin Shing liked the Four Seasons Hotel more, so he also booked a Four Seasons hotel for Su Qin. There were more places to eat here, both the environment and the taste were good. On the way, Qin Shing and Su Qin talked and laughed. Su Qin also gradually relaxed. She asked about Qin Shing's situation in Hangzhou and talked about her work in Shanghai. After all, Qin Shing had disappeared for so long. Last time when they met in Xi'an, they just chatted for a while, which could not relieve the pain of lovesickness. However, from the beginning to the end, Su Qin did not mention anything about Lin Su. Gu Qingyang drove quietly. He had been used to all kinds of beauties around Qin Shing. After all, Brother Qin was so charming that even Senior Uncle Chang was willing to follow him. If he met such a woman in his life, he would definitely treat her like the palm of his hand. After checking in and putting the luggage back in the room, Qin Shing went to the restaurant with Su Qin. Hao Lei had been waiting for a long time. After seeing Su Qin, they greeted each other familiarly. When they were in Shanghai, Su Qin and Hao Lei could see each other occasionally. After all, Hao Lei was not busy at that time. It seemed that Hao Lei had a good relationship with the women around Qin Shing. It also seemed that Hao Lei cleaned up the mess for Qin Shing. Maybe they were good brothers. The atmosphere of the whole lunch was very harmonious. After all, this was the first time for the three of them to get together. They talked about the trivial things in the past. Qin Shing and Su Qin did not hide anything. They talked about many things on their own initiative, which made Hao Lei relax a lot. He was afraid that the atmosphere would be awkward. Qin Shing enjoyed this situation very much. After all, he had been under a lot of pressure recently. It was rare for him to be so relaxed. In the afternoon, Qin Shing had something to deal with. Originally, he asked Hao Lei to show Su Qin around in Hangzhou. However, Su Qin said it was not necessary. She could do it alone. Qin Shing did not insist. During dinner, Qin Shing invited Lin Su to a Western restaurant that was not bad. Of course, Hao Lei would not spoil the fun and steal the show. Su Qin could not forget Qin Shing, so she came to Hangzhou. Of course, she had to give them some time to be alone. "How many days are you going to stay in Hangzhou?" Qin Shing asked. He did not like Western food very much, but he knew that Su Qin liked it. So he chose this restaurant, which was relatively high-end in Hangzhou. Su Qin took a sip of red wine and replied, I haven't decided yet. I have nothing to do in the company recently, so I asked for a few days' leave. Hangzhou is a pretty good city. You can go around. But I don't think I have time to accompany you. I have a lot of things to do recently, Qin Sheng said frankly. He did not have time. Su Qin chuckled and said, It's okay. I can go around by myself. Don't worry about me. Are you going to stay in Shanghai forever? Don't go back to Xi'an? Uncle and auntie are old. You are the only pearl in their eyes. You should spend more time with them. Qin Sheng said half-jokingly. Su Qin asked, What about you? Don't you want to go back? Since I was young, my grandfather said that I was destined to be a person without root. So it's the same wherever I go. Moreover, my path is different from others. I am destined to go forward alone, Qin Sheng said cruelly. This sentence was like a needle piercing into Su Qin's heart. Su Qin laughed at herself and said, So, is this the reason why you broke up with me? Su Qin, I still say the same thing. If you want, we can be very good friends. I know you like me. I used to like you too. But now I am not who I used to be. You will understand one day that it is better for you to stay away from me. Qin Sheng gritted his teeth and continued. He seemed to have said these words before. Su Qin was no longer fragile. She said firmly, I know what you want to say. In fact, you don't have to say these words. I don't expect anything. As long as I can see you occasionally, that's enough. Maybe, after a few years, I will slowly forget you. At that time, I will leave Shanghai and go back to Xi'an. I will find a man who is suitable for me and also likes me. I will get married and have a pair of beautiful and lovely children. I will watch them grow up slowly and accompany my parents to grow old slowly. I will live an ordinary life that belongs to me. I might occasionally think of you, but I'll definitely only think of those beautiful things. I'll purse my lips and smile, thanking you for the memories you gave me and also thanking me for having you. Then, I'll think about where you are now and what you're doing. At this time, 2 little guys run over and call me Mom. I will hold them and go back to reality again. Qin Sheng did not know why when Su Qin said these words. He felt inexplicably uncomfortable in his heart. It was as if something that he had treasured for many years was taken away by others. Then I will bless you. Qin Sheng was a little breathless, but he still wanted to bless her. Su Qin forced a smile and said, I will also bless you. After dinner, Su Qin and Qin Sheng walked out of the restaurant. The rain outside was getting heavier. Qin Sheng said he would send Su Qin away. However, Su Qin insisted on walking by herself and asked Qin Sheng to leave first. Qin Sheng could see from Su Qin's eyes that she insisted. So he had to get in the car and leave first. Su Qin held an umbrella and walked forward aimlessly. She did not know where she was going or what she was going to do. She just left like this, because she knew that she was getting farther and farther away from Qin Sheng. The rain was getting heavier and heavier. Su Qin's mood was getting worse and worse. Thinking of everything that she had once had, she could not bear it anymore. She threw away the umbrella, squatted on the ground and cried bitterly with her head in her arms. The cold autumn rain was wreaking havoc on Su Qin's weak body, which made people feel extremely distressed. A few meters behind Su Qin, an Audi A8L had been closely following her. Qin Sheng, who was sitting in the car, had red eyes and clenched his fists. His chest was aching badly, but he still did not get out of the car. Chapter 301. Never bow down. Some people say that if you don't cry in the middle of the night, you can't talk about life. But why do you have to go through hardships to be considered life? Isn't everyone pursuing a happy and stable life? This is a paradox. In the late autumn rainy night, a woman with a scarred heart was crying in the rain for love. Anyone would feel sorry for her, but it was a beautiful woman with outstanding temperament. Some passers-by passed by in a hurry. It was none of their business, and they were afraid of getting into trouble. Some passers-by frowned and hesitated to help. After all, everyone has a low tide in life. Finally, a pair of old people stopped. The old lady held an umbrella for Su Qin and said worriedly, "Child, what's wrong with you?" The old man picked up the umbrella beside him and held it for her, trying not to let her get wet again. After all, the autumn rain was piercing to the bone and it was easy to get sick. Young people usually don't pay attention to their health. When they get old, they will regret it. After Su Qin cried, she finally felt less sad in her heart. At this time, she was a little embarrassed. Her hair and clothes had been wet by the rain. She raised her head and looked at the old lady with tears in her eyes. She wiped her tears and shook her head. "Grandma, I'm fine." The old lady didn't expect the girl in front of her to be so beautiful. She said with some pity, "Silly girl, there is nothing you can't get through, and there is nothing you can't let go. They are all your life experiences and memories. Raise your head and go on bravely. You still have a long way to go." Su Qin stood up. The old man handed the umbrella to her and said with a smile, "Such a beautiful girl, life will not treat you badly. Go back, take a bath, and have a good sleep. Tomorrow is a new day," the old lady said with a kind smile. Su Qin nodded heavily. The difficult knot in her heart seemed to have loosened. She should live like before, not like this. "Thank you, Grandpa and Grandma." Su Qin smiled and then strode away with the umbrella. She stopped a taxi by the roadside and went to the hotel. Now she didn't want to do anything but have a good sleep. The old lady held the old man's arm again. The old man tried to put the umbrella closer to the old lady. The two old people looked very loving. The old lady sighed. "Love always tortures every young child. Weren't we like this when we were young? It's good to be young," the old man sighed. The two of them walked very slowly, chattering as if they had endless things to say. This seemed to be the life that everyone wanted. How many people could live like this when they were old? Qin Sheng watched Su Qin get in the car and leave. Then, he watched the two old people disappear from his sight. His emotions had recovered and he was not as agitated as before. Few things could make him lose his composure like this. "Am I too cruel?" Qin Sheng muttered to himself, but it also seemed that he was asking Gu Qingyang, who was driving. Gu Qingyang was at a loss. He looked at Qin Sheng from the rearview mirror, but he did not know what to say. He had guessed more or less that the relationship between Qin Sheng and this beauty was very complicated. Otherwise, the beauty would not have cried in the heavy rain and Brother Qin would not have been so upset. "Her name is Su Qin. She used to be the woman I loved the most. She was also my first love. From high school to university, she accompanied me for 6 years. Qingyang, what do you think? Is it right or wrong for me to do this?" Qin Sheng laughed at himself, with tears in his eyes. Gu Qingyang said hesitantly, "Brother Qin, I don't know much about the world. Maybe there are many things that I don't understand. But I have known since I was a child that you can't hurt anyone who treats you well. After all, there are not many people who treat you well sincerely in your life." Gu Qingyang's simple words made Qin Sheng absent-minded again. Did he do something wrong? "Let's go back." Qin Sheng sighed and said. Lin Su did not come back tonight. Lin Yu had asked Qin Sheng to stay in Wulin No. 1. Qin Sheng did not say anything about it. He stayed in the study for half a night and then went to bed. On Monday, Han Bing's new company opened. After facing Su Qin, Qin Sheng had to face Lin Su. He was destined to be entangled with women for the rest of his life. No wonder his grandfather had defined him. Han Bing's company was located on Beishan Road, which was adjacent to West Lake. The rent was very high. But for this rich woman who had inherited hundreds of millions of yuan, it was nothing. Since her father passed away, Han Bing's life had changed completely. She was no longer as unruly and capricious as before. After all, no one could shelter her. She stayed away from those bad friends and only talked to a few friends who were really good to her. As for her life, she just did what she liked. As long as she was happy and comfortable, money was not important to her. For the opening of the new company, Han Bing invited many guests and friends. After all, they were all here to support the opening. Many of them were her father's old friends in Hangzhou. Qin Sheng was also one of the guests. He came with Hao Lei. Han Bing was sometimes capricious and often quarreled with Qin Sheng. But when she was working, she was definitely a capable and strong woman. Qin Sheng had seen it when he was her driver. So when the new company opened today, Han Bing was very busy. When Qin Sheng and Hao Lei came in, she greeted them with a smile. I was wondering why you guys are not here yet. When your new company opens, even if we have something big, we have to come to support you. If you become the richest woman in the future, you still have to support us. Qin Sheng deliberately made fun of Han Bing. Today, Han Bing was dressed in standard business attire and meticulously made up. She had the aura of a strong woman and greeted all the guests politely. At this time, an elder came. Han Bing stared at Qin Sheng and said, I don't want to talk to you. You guys go ahead. I don't have time to entertain you today. No matter what, congratulations. You can go ahead with your work, don't worry about us, Qin Sheng said to Han Bing with a smile. Hao Lei also said a few words of congratulations, and they were led by the receptionist to a place to sit down and drink tea. At 12 o'clock at noon, the official ribbon-cutting ceremony was held. Qin Sheng stood beside Han Bing, which showed how important he was to her. They cut the ribbon with several guests at the same time in the sound of fireworks, which also announced that Han Bing had officially settled in Hangzhou. After the ribbon-cutting ceremony, it was the celebration lunch of Han Bing's company. Qin Sheng and Hao Lei did not escape but went to the hotel. They had to keep an eye on Han Bing in case she drank too much and was taken advantage of by others. After the ribbon-cutting ceremony, it was already 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Qin Sheng and Hao Lei said goodbye and left. Both of them drank a little, but with Gu Qingyang driving, it did not matter. Han Bing, who was in a good mood, drank too much and was sent home by the company to rest. Life went on, but they had to face what they had to face. Qin Sheng did not have much time left. Chang Baji did not ask Qin Sheng about it. He had been in Boss Hu's training base for the past 2 days. Lin Changhe did not ask, but he still stayed in Hangzhou to wait for the news. He thought that Qin Sheng and Yan Chaozong must have reached some agreement. Since he was checking the accounts in Hangzhou, he could wait for a few days. Everyone was waiting for Qin Sheng's news. Yan Chaozong was also in Hangzhou. His family had a good relationship with many big families in Hangzhou. After all, he was born in Ningbo, and many Ningbo families had already taken root in Hangzhou. In addition, many local tycoons in Hangzhou were developing in Shanghai, which was the economic center of the country. Therefore, Yan Chaozong had been visiting these families and tycoons in the past 2 days. As the successor of the Yan family, he knew these rules of conduct. In the evening, when Yan Chaozong came back from the banquet, Chu Huanxi, who loved to watch the fun, called him and asked impatiently, "How is it? Did that guy reply?" "Not yet. Why are you more anxious than me?" Yan Chaozong was speechless. Chu Huanxi was really a playboy, but it seemed that he had not done anything bad. Chu Huanxi said in a low voice, "I am waiting to watch the show. Ha ha ha. I will inform you when I get the news. If you don't watch the show, it will not be lively," Yan Chaozong said playfully. Chu Huanxi said happily, "Don't worry. I will find more people for you." After hanging up the phone, Chu Huanxi stopped smiling. He picked up a glass of wine and drank it up. The table in front of him was a mess. He had not cleaned it for several days because he was in a bad mood. He was the grandson of the old monk. Everyone respected and feared him. No one dared to offend him. He could get everything he wanted, including a mansion, a luxury car, and a beautiful woman. But he could not get a true love. Yes, he was a human, not an animal. Although the women around him had changed one after another, he had once loved a woman. However, even though he had tried everything to pursue her, the woman had never looked at him in the eye. Later, he did not force the woman. He just stayed by her side quietly. But if anything happened to the woman, he would deal with it secretly. Because of this, he became what he was now. Today, he found out that the woman was going to get married next month. His dream was completely shattered. As Chowda thought, Qin Chang'an, who was far away in Beijing, had been paying attention to what was happening in Hangzhou. Although he said that he would not care about Qin Sheng and let him do whatever he wanted, he was still afraid that what had happened last time would happen again. After knowing that Yan Chaozong had gone to Hangzhou for the first time, he had asked Zhuangzhou to go south. So during this time, Zhuangzhou had been following Qin Sheng. Unless Qin Sheng was in danger, Zhuangzhou would not show up. After Gong Sun came to the study, Qin Chang'an took off his reading glasses and asked casually, "Has Qin Ran boarded the plane?" Gong Sun nodded and said, "She is flying now." "That's good. No one will intervene in what is happening in Hangzhou when she is not here," Qin Chang'an said with satisfaction. He arranged for Qin Ran to Europe on purpose, so that she would not intervene in Qin Sheng's business. What happened last time was too high profile, so he let Qin Sheng deal with it himself this time. Gong Sun said with interest, "Master, how do you think young master will solve the problem?" The Lin family was pressing on, and Yan Chaozong and Chu Huanxi were joining hands. Qin Sheng, who was caught in the middle, had no choice. He can do whatever he wants, but he can't give in. Qin Chang'an knocked on the table and snorted. This was his bottom line for Qin Sheng. If he could not fight against Yan Chaozong, how could he fight against those playboys in Siju City in the future? They were much more powerful than Yan Chaozong. Gong Sun smiled bitterly and said nothing. Late at night, Qin Sheng went back to the Golden Coast. Lin Su still did not come back. It was said that several sisters of the Lin family were having a party at Wulinwan. It was so late, but second uncle did not let her go. Qin Sheng said a few words and hung up the phone. He understood that this was Lin Changhe's pressure on him in a different way. Tomorrow was the last day. Qin Sheng had no choice but to walk into the study slowly. He had to make a choice tonight. Chapter 302. Chapter 302 failed. Most of the things in life would not go your way, and no one could be omnipotent. No one could have a smooth life, and no one could be omnipotent. Everyone had things that they could not get or accomplish. Everyone had regrets and regret. These beautiful and unpleasant things formed a life. No one could be sure whether the choice at the moment was right or wrong. But they had to make a choice after all. After all, many times in life were multiple choice questions. One after another, they formed a score. Qin Sheng locked himself in the study. Every time he had to make a choice, he would be alone and think about it quietly. Finally, he made a choice. It was the same today. A bottle of liquor, a pack of cigarettes, and a song that he would never get tired of listening to. He smoked, drank, listened to the song, and slowly fell into deep thought. Time passed, from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock, and then to 2 o'clock. Qin Sheng's brain was playing a game, and he had weighed all the pros and cons. If he refused, he would either start a full-scale war with Yan Chaozong, or he could only take Lin Su away from this troublesome place. It was uncertain whether Chang Baji and the others would still follow him. Everything that he had worked so hard to get would be wasted. The Lin family was completely disappointed. If he agreed, he would lose his dignity, which he did not want to lose the most. He would become the laughing stock of Yan Chaozong. He would be laughed at by many people, and many people would be disappointed. But he could continue to live in Hangzhou, and he would not have to wander around. If he was lucky, he could make a name for himself here many years later. For many people, this was an easy choice, but for Qin Sheng, it was a difficult choice. He was afraid that after making this choice today, He would have no principles and bottom line in the future. He was afraid that he would not be that young man anymore. But he had no choice. So he could only make this choice. After he finished drinking and smoking, the song was still playing. However, Qin Sheng had already fallen asleep leaning against the chair. In his dream, he had returned to his childhood. His grandfather was sitting under the old locust tree, enjoying the cool breeze, leisurely and contented. He was playing in the yard, carefree and carefree. It seemed that every time Qin Sheng encountered setbacks or difficulties, he could dream of his grandfather. When they were young, many people yearned to grow up, as if they could travel the world with a sword when they grew up. When they grew up, many people wanted to go back to their childhood, because they found that the world they yearned for did not exist, and there were too many troubles and sorrows. At dawn, Qin Sheng opened his eyes and took out his phone. In the end, he sent a text message to Yan Chaozong. "You decide the time and place." He admitted defeat. On this day, Qin Sheng turned off his phone and locked himself in the study. He did not contact anyone, did not eat or drink, and only smoked and drank. He completely let himself sink into depravity. He had once believed that he would never be a good-for-nothing in this life. But now, he had to kneel down and apologize to someone. Wasn't that enough of a good-for-nothing? In the Amanfayan Hotel, when Yan Chaozong woke up in the early morning, he saw Qin Sheng's text message on the screen of his mobile phone and burst into laughter all of a sudden. He felt extremely carefree and comfortable, which startled the beautiful campus belle in the quilt next to him. The beautiful campus belle rushed to Hangzhou from Shanghai last night. After all, Yan Chaozong felt somewhat lonely in Hangzhou. Yan Chaozong shouted excitedly, "Ha ha, I thought you were so awesome. I thought the man Lin Su chose would be indomitable. But you still admitted defeat. You are just SOSO Qin Sheng." Yan Chaozong was very excited. The pretty campus belle asked in a daze, "Honey, what's wrong with you?" "Nothing, go back to sleep." Yan Chaozong patted the back of the pretty campus belle and comforted her. Then he put on his clothes and got up. After getting up, Yan Chaozong dialed Chu Huanxi's number directly without washing up. Last night, Chu Huanxi had been drinking alone all night. In the end, he got himself drunk. He hadn't gotten up until Yan Chaozong's call. Chu Huanxi did not see who was calling. He had a splitting headache and asked casually, "Who is it?" "It's me, Yan Chaozong." Yan Chaozong came straight to the point. Chu Huanxi became a little sober and asked, "Oh, child Yan, what can I do for you?" He agreed. "You can get ready. We will discuss the location at noon the day after tomorrow." Yan Chaozong arranged directly without any nonsense. Chu Huanxi was stunned. Although he liked to join in the fun and humiliate others, he could not be happy today. Because the woman he liked the most was about to get married. Nothing could arouse his interest. He could only deal with it and said in a low voice, "I see. I will arrange it now." After hanging up the phone, Chu Huanxi continued to sleep. Everyone had bad moods, including him. Men would always be restless if they could not get what they wanted. They would not cherish what they had. Perhaps, even if Chu Huanxi had gotten that woman back then, he would have gotten tired of her in a short time based on his character. But he just could not get her. This was the root of the problem. The most helpless thing for men was the sense of failure. Qin Sheng's phone was turned off. At first, nothing happened. But at noon, it became serious. Chowda had something to discuss with Qin Sheng. He still wanted to help Qin Sheng more or less. However, Qin Sheng's phone was turned off. Hence, he went to look for Chang Baji. There was no news from Chang Baji either. This time, nobody could find Qin Sheng. Chang Baji could only contact Lin Su, because no one had seen Qin Sheng today. Maybe only Lin Su knew where Qin Sheng was. Lin Su did not go back to the Golden Coast last night. In the morning, she directly went to the company from Martial Arts No. 1. She was ready to resign. Last night, her second uncle discussed with her and planned to let her be in charge of the affairs of the Lin family in Hangzhou. After all, she was capable. Moreover, how could the daughter of the Lin family work for others? She would be laughed at if others knew about it. Lin Su told Chang Baji that she had not been home for 2 days. Chang Baji panicked, afraid that something bad had happened to Qin Xing. Lin Su also realized that something was wrong. She hurried to ask Chang Baji. Chang Baji told her that Qin Xing's phone was turned off and no one could contact him. Lin Su told Chang Baji that the last time Qin Xing called her was last night. After thinking for a while, Chang Baji contacted Gu Qingyang. Gu Qingyang had been Qin Xing's driver for 2 days, so he might know where Qin Xing was. Gu Qingyang was surprised to receive the call. He had been waiting for Qin Xing at the gate of the Golden Coast community in the morning. Qin Xing had not come out yet. He had texted Qin Xing, but Qin Xing did not reply. He thought Qin Xing was busy, so he did not call him but waited outside. Receiving the call from his senior uncle, Gu Qingyang said honestly, "Senior uncle, I went back after driving brother Qin home last night. I arrived at the gate of the community at 7 o'clock this morning, but brother Qin has not come out yet. If he is not at home, I definitely don't know where he is." Therefore, he could only exclude the last possibility, which was his home in the Golden Coast. As Gu Qingyang had said, if Qin Xing was not at home, no one knew where he was. In a big city with millions of people, it was easy for a person to disappear. Therefore, Lin Su and Chang Baji went to the Golden Coast at the same time. Lin Su and Chang Baji arrived at the Golden Coast almost at the same time. Lin Su could tell that she was worried about Qin Xing. When she saw Chang Baji, she asked, "What happened to him these days?" Of course, he could not tell her about that. Chang Baji had to say, "I was not in the city these days, so I really don't know." Lin Su could only ask Gu Qingyang, "Qingyang, do you know?" "I don't know. When I drove brother Qin home last night, I didn't find anything strange." Gu Qingyang shook his head. He thought that Qin Xing might be missing because of what happened last night. However, it was Qin Xing's first love. Of course, he could not tell Lin Su about it. Otherwise, it would cause family conflict. Lin Su felt somewhat helpless. She frowned and had to go home with Chang Baji and Gu Qingyang to see whether Qin Xing was at home. When she opened the door, the living room was empty. There was no one in the room. When Chang Baji was about to check the study, he found that the door of the study was locked. He finally felt relieved, because he was sure that Qin Xing was in the study. Seeing Chang Baji's expression, Lin Su frowned and asked, "Is he inside?" Chang Baji explained, "The door is locked from the inside. He should be inside." Lin Su gnashed her teeth and knocked on the door. "Qin Xing, are you inside?" No one answered. Lin Su knocked on the door again and said, "What happened to you? Don't scare me." Before Lin Su finished her words, Qin Xing had already opened the door. When they saw that the door was opened, both Lin Su and Chang Baji were completely relieved. However, Qin Xing in front of them was quite embarrassed. His hair was disheveled and his face was greasy. His eyes were dull. He reeked of alcohol and smoke. The room was also a mess. "Why are you here?" No matter how depraved Qin Xing was, he would definitely not see anything strange in front of Lin Su. Lin Su said somewhat angrily, "What happened to you? You turned off your phone. None of us could find you. We thought something happened to you." "I'm fine. I was just thinking about something. Maybe my phone ran out of battery and turned off automatically," Qin Xing said with a smile. It seemed that he was really fine. Although Lin Su had some doubts in front of outsiders, she could only say, "Well, don't do this in the future. You really scared everyone." Seeing Lin Su's beautiful face turn pale, and seeing Chang Baji's anxiety and worry, Qin Xing was more determined to make that choice. Qin Xing touched Lin Su's hair and admitted, "Okay, I got it. I'm hungry. I haven't eaten yet." Lin Su was satisfied and said, I'm going to make something for you. After Lin Su left, Qin Sheng said, Qingyang, go to the living room and sit for a while. Lao Chang, I have something to tell you. Chang Baji followed Qin Sheng into the study and closed the door. The study was in a mess. The floor was full of cigarette butts and 2 bottles of white wine. Could be seen what Qin Sheng had experienced. I've already made my choice. Qin Sheng opened the window and said without turning his head, Maybe I'll let you down. Is this the reason why you are degenerate and give up on yourself? Chang Baji asked in a sarcastic tone. Now he understood why Qin Sheng turned off his phone. He was completely avoiding it. Qin Sheng did not say anything and remained silent. Chang Baji continued, Do you know what the symbol of maturity is? Maturity is compromise. You can't not compromise. Some things are there, forcing you to compromise. I know you have your own principles and character, but people have to gradually change with the environment to adapt to the survival rules and game rules of this society. I dare not say that you can be flexible, but at least you should be able to pick up and let go. If you can't let go now, how can you do it in the future? Not everyone can bow and bend their knees. But those who can do it, even if they are as humble as the dust, can also be a dog's tail flower. Chang Baji rarely talked about these long principles, but his relationship with Qin Sheng was complicated. He did not want to see Qin Sheng be defeated by reality because of this matter. Chang Baji's words made Qin Sheng's depressed mood gradually brighten. Yes, he could not let go of these things. This time he shed all pretenses and survived, but what about the next time? Do you know there is a kind of fish called lungfish? If you put it in the water, it breathes with its gills. If it is still on land, it breathes with its lungs. If there is nothing, it doesn't eat or drink and hibernates in the mud for several years. You are also a person who has been to the gates of hell many times. Don't you understand? Everything that can't kill you will only make you stronger. In the end, Chang Baji's tone had become extremely tough. If he finished saying these words and Qin Sheng still could not stand up, then he would be completely disappointed. Maybe he would leave Qin Sheng. A person without ambition and confidence was more terrible than anything else. Chapter 303. What the hell? Everything that couldn't kill you would only make you stronger. Although Qin Sheng was less than 30 years old, he had experienced many times of death. The most recent one was on Mount Zhihua. He was almost dead but luckily escaped. If Zhuang Zhou hadn't arrived in time and sent him to the hospital as soon as possible, Qin Sheng would have died long ago. Every time he experienced death, Qin Sheng was never afraid. Every time he survived, he became stronger. Since he was not afraid of death, what else should he be afraid of? Qin Sheng took a few deep breaths and stared at Chang Baji. He was really a bit messy from last night to today, which was not his character. How did his grandfather teach him? If his grandfather was here, he would not be disappointed with any choice he made, but definitely with his current state. Qin Sheng's eyes, which were dull, finally returned to normal. He said firmly, Lao Chang, I'm sorry to make you worry. I said that no matter what decision you make, I will support you and stay by your side. But you can't give up on yourself. If you give up on yourself, what reason do we have to persist? Chang Baji had thought about a lot of things these days. Originally, he thought that Qin Sheng's choice might make him disappointed. But how many people in this world could live with a straight back? How many people could stand out with a straight back? No matter how much you had been wronged and how many hardships you had experienced, once you succeeded, it would all be a joke. He had only followed Qin Sheng for a year. What Qin Sheng had done in 1 year was enough for him to see Qin Sheng's potential. If he hadn't met Yan Chaozong, who was a strong opponent, Qin Sheng would definitely have made a name for himself in 10 years. Even though he had encountered trouble now, he had to believe in Qin Sheng. He was betting on Qin Sheng's fate. At this time, Qin Sheng had already come to himself. He walked slowly to Chang Baji and held his shoulders. His eyes were like torches as he said, "Well, Lao Chang, with your words, I don't believe that there is any obstacle that I can't overcome." Chang Baji laughed out loud and said, "This is the Qin Sheng I know. He did not disgrace old Master Qin." Qin Sheng and Chang Baji laughed out loud as they walked out of the study. Lin Su was cooking in the kitchen. Qin Sheng took the opportunity to take a shower and change his clothes. Gu Qingyang helped Qin Sheng tidy up the mess in the study. Lin Su simply cooked some noodles and fried 2 vegetable dishes. Qin Sheng, who had been hungry for a long time, wolfed down this bowl of noodles. At this moment, he felt that this bowl of noodles was the most delicious in the world. After the meal, Qin Sheng turned on his phone again. Naturally, he received a text message from Yan Chaozong. The time was 12 o'clock noon the day after tomorrow. The specific location was to be determined. Someone would be sent to pick him up at that time. Qin Sheng showed the text to Chang Baji. After reading it, Chang Baji pondered and said, "Will they play any tricks? What tricks can he play? If he really wanted to get rid of me without hesitation, he would not be Yan Chaozong. He's a rich playboy, he has more scruples than us," Qin Sheng said disapprovingly. This was his original character. At this moment, Lin Su was cleaning up in the kitchen, which was why he dared to say this. Otherwise, he would have to be scrupulous so that Lin Su would not worry. Chang Baji hesitated for a while and said, "Tomorrow, we'd better be careful. We'll take a few more people there, just in case." Qin Sheng did not refuse. He nodded and agreed, "Okay." Chang Baji stayed in the Golden Coast for more than an hour. After making sure that Qin Sheng was fine, he left with Gu Qingyang. He would arrange the rest. The day after tomorrow, he would take Gu Qingyang, Gu Xiaobo, Hao Lei, and Tang Shi to follow Qin Sheng to make sure that nothing would go wrong. After the 2 guests left, Lin Su also finished cleaning up. She went back to the living room and stared at Qin Sheng with a frown. "Are you hiding something from me?" "What can I hide from you?" Qin Sheng shrugged and chuckled. "There are too many things to do in the company these days. Moreover, so many things have happened recently. I'm under a lot of pressure. I want to calm down. Are you sure you're okay?" Lin Su squinted and asked. Qin Sheng held Lin Su in his arms and said, "I'm fine. Don't worry. I've died several times. Nothing can stump me." "That's good." Lin Su was relieved. She thought it was about Yan Chaozong again. However, she thought that they did not reach an agreement the day before yesterday. She asked her second uncle, and got the same answer. Therefore, it should not be about this. Lin Su thought that what she had told second uncle was right. She said to Qin Sheng, "I'm going to resign from the company. I was going to tell the leader today. However, you suddenly made such a scene, so I didn't have time. Second uncle asked me to take charge of the specific affairs of the Hangzhou branch. I've agreed." Qin Sheng said half-jokingly, "Great. It's really a waste of your talent to let a financial genius like you work in a charity foundation." Lin Su smiled and said, "By the way, I'm going back to Ningbo this weekend. Do you want to go with me? The thing between Yan Chaozong and me has not been settled yet. I guess your family will not treat me well when I go back. At that time, you'll have a bad relationship with them. So I won't go with you this time. When the thing between me and Yan Chaozong is settled and your family gives in, I'll go back with you openly. What do you think?" Qin Sheng said. The old lady was not in good health. Lin Su should go back to see her. This was the obligation of a descendant. He could not stop Lin Su from reconciling with the Lin family because of him. Lin Su hesitated for a while. She knew what he was thinking. Finally, she nodded and said, "Okay." After Chu Huanqi woke up, he met with Yan Chaozong. They discussed all the countermeasures. Now, they just waited for the protagonist and the audience to arrive. All the trivial things were handled by Chu Huanxi. The next day, people in different circles in Hangzhou received different invitations from Chu Huanxi and Yan Chaozong. They did not mention the specific content. They only invited these people to Yuerong Manor in Cici at noon tomorrow, which happened to be the same place where Yan Chaozong and Qin Xing would meet. The meaning was self-evident. As for the old monk, it was needless to say that all the people who should be there would be there. Many of them were invited by Yuan Ku and the others. After all, Chu Huanxi was not that influential. Among those invited were Boss Hu, Luo Changgong, Yang Deng, and the people from the Dugu family. As for Yan Chaozong, it was another group of people. People in Yan Chaozong's group wondered what he was going to do. They thought the Yan family was going to invest more in Hangzhou. People in Chu Huanxi's group all suspected that the old monk was going to do something big. The whole city of Hangzhou became lively in an instant. Everyone was waiting for the mystery to be solved tomorrow. Several tycoons in 3rd Master Wu's group, who were at the same level as Luo Changgong, received invitations. After discussing with each other, some of them were willing to go, while others were not. They all thought the old monk was going to retire and choose a new successor. But it had nothing to do with them. In the evening, Yang Deng was having dinner in Luo Changgong's house. During dinner, he asked casually, "What the hell do you think the old monk is doing? Why did he mobilize so many people?" "I don't know. We will know when we go there tomorrow. Anyway, we have nothing to do. Let's just go and join in the fun." Luo Changgong drank wine and said casually. Originally, Yang Deng wanted to ask Qin Xing to go with him. But he thought that Qin Xing was busy recently and had a lot of things to deal with. So he did not disturb Qin Xing. Anyway, if there was any movement, he would tell Qin Xing. Of course, he did not expect that Qin Xing was the main character of this farce. Yang Deng nodded quietly and said, "Okay, I will see what they can do." At the same time, Lin Changhe also received the call. But Yan Chaozong told Lin Changhe that the Yan family was going to hold a lunch in Yuerong Manor in Cici. The people invited were all aristocratic families and partners who were on good terms with the Yan family. Lin Changhe must come to support them. Although Lin Changhe was doubtful, he still agreed. As for Qin Xing, he did not know what was going on in the outside world. He stayed at home all day and did not go anywhere. Every time he was upset, only books could calm him down. It was not a bad thing to read more. In the long history of thousands of years, there had never been a lack of wise people. All their experiences were in books, waiting for anyone to learn and apply them. Chang Baji did not go to Boss Hu's place again. He had arranged the trifles for the next day and divided them into 2 groups. One group would stay in Amanfeon to keep an eye on Yan Chaozong, and the other group would be led by him to protect Qin Xing. Chang Baji heard some rumors that something big had happened in the old monk's place, but he did not look into it. He did not expect that it would have anything to do with Qin Xing. After all, he did not know the relationship between Yan Chaozong and Chu Huanxi. On the 3rd day, the appointed time finally came. Chang Baji arrived at the Golden Coast at about 8 o'clock. Qin Xing had been waiting for Yan Chaozong's call at home. At 11 o'clock, Qin Xing and Chang Baji received a call at the same time. Yan Chaozong called Qin Xing and told him that his people had arrived at the gate of the Golden Coast and that Qin Xing should get ready to go. The call Chang Baji received was from Hao Lei, who stayed in Amanfeon and said that Yan Chaozong had set off. Lin Su had gone to work in the morning, so Qin Xing stayed at home alone. After hanging up the phone, Qin Xing went out. After he went downstairs, Chang Baji, Gu Qingyang, Gu Xiaobo, and the others came to greet him. Chang Baji said in a low voice, "Yan Chaozong has set off." Qin Xing said thoughtfully, "Yes, he called me." After Qin Xing and the others went out, they saw 2 black Audi A6L parked at the gate of the community. 5 or 6 men in black suits got out of the cars. When they saw Qin Xing, they said politely, Mr. Qin, Master Yen asked us to pick you up. Please get in the car. Gu Xiaobo said worriedly, Brother Qin. Qin Xing waved his hand and said, You can follow behind. After that, Qin Xing got in the car first. Chang Baji, Gu Qingyang, Gu Xiaobo, and the others took 2 cars and followed him closely. Both sides were safe. At this time, at the traffic light, the 2 Audi A6L suddenly sped up and ran through the red light. Chang Baji felt that something was wrong and said without hesitation, Go after them. Chapter 304. Since you are here, take it well. Yen Chaozong sent 2 Audi A6L cars to pick Qin Xing up. Qin Xing sat in the car behind, with a driver and a bodyguard in front. He was alone in the back seat. The 2 cars sped up at the same time, ran the red light, and drove away. Qin Xing's face changed slightly, but he did not panic. Firstly, he believed in his judgment. Secondly, he believed in the abilities of Chang Baji and the others. Thirdly, he did not believe that Yen Chaozong could do anything to him in broad daylight. Mr. Qin, don't worry. We are just in a hurry, the bodyguard in the front seat said casually. He also wanted Qin Xing to rest assured that everything was going according to plan. Qin Xing said in a low voice, Okay. Behind them, Chang Baji, Gu Qingyang, and Gu Xiaobo also ran the red light and followed the Audi in front. Gu Qingyang, who was driving, frowned and said, Senior uncle, what's going on? Follow closely. Don't get lost. Chang Baji did not talk nonsense. He simply told them directly. They only had one task, which was to protect Qin Xing. Before Chang Baji finished his words, Gu Xiaobo, who was in the car behind, called to ask. He was also a little confused about why they suddenly started to chase. Chang Baji also told him the same thing. Then Chang Baji called Qin Xing. Qin Xing said casually, It's okay. You just follow. The place Yen Chaozong had booked was quiet Ccuerong Manor. However, the 2 Audi cars did not go there. Instead, they went out of the city. Soon, they arrived at the Hangzhou Ring Expressway. Without hesitation, they got on the expressway through etc. Chang Baji and the others also got on the expressway. Qin Xing, Chang Baji, and the others became more and more confused. They did not know what was going on. Was the place they were going to meet in? After getting on the Ring Expressway, the 2 Audi cars slowed down and drove at a moderate speed. Qin Xing did not ask where they were going. Anyway, they would take him to the destination eventually. At this time, Yen Chaozong had arrived at Ccuerong Manor. Chu Huanxi, Yuan Ku, and the others were also there. At the same time, Qian Buping also came to watch the fun. As Yuan Ku's brother-in-law, Yuan Ku told Qian Buping what was going on. Of course, Qian Buping would not miss such fun. After all, it was Qin Xing who had made him leave Poly International in a sorry state and lose his previous position. Though he was doing well in Yuan Ku's company, he was still not as good as before. When Yen Chaozong arrived at Yuerong Manor in Cici, Hao Lei, who followed him closely, immediately called Chang Baji. Chang Baji frowned and said, Yuerong Manor in Cici? Yen Chaozong's destination was Ccuerong Manor. At this moment, they were on the highway around the city. This seemed a little unreasonable. You guys stay in Yuerong Manor and act according to the situation, Chang Baji ordered. After that, Chang Baji sent the news to Qin Xing. Qin Xing did not say anything after reading it. In the banquet hall of Yuerong Manor in Cici, many guests had already arrived. It was extremely lively. Chu Huanxi had specially hired a public relations company to hold this event. There were 20 banquet tables in the banquet hall, which showed how many guests had been invited today. Chu Huanxi and Yen Chaozong stood at the door and started to welcome the guests they had invited. When Luo Changgong and Yang Deng walked in, they were warmly welcomed by Chu Huanxi, Yuan Ku, and the others. After exchanging some pleasantries, Luo Changgong and Yang Deng were led to their seats by the beautiful receptionist, which was a table near the front. After sitting down, Yang Deng was confused and asked, "Why are they together? Do you know that man?" Luo Changgong asked curiously. He did not know him. Yang Deng explained slowly. He is the grandson of old Master Yin of the Yin family in Shanghai. He is working for the Yin family now. At the same time, he was Qin Shing's rival in love in Shanghai. Qin Shing left Shanghai because of him. So I am confused why he is here. He looks like the host today. After hearing that, Luo Changgong could not help but frown and said, "Oh, there is such a relationship. I thought he is a newcomer from the old monk's side. The Yen family in Shanghai and the Lin family in Ningbo are quite well matched. Is there any cooperation between the Yen family in Shanghai and the old monk? If the old monk is connected with the Yen family in Shanghai, he will be more powerful than us in the Yangtze River Delta." Yang Deng hesitated for a while and said, "I don't know. The Yen family in Shanghai and the old monk don't have any relationship. The Yen family is indeed influential in Shanghai, but they are not on the same path as the old monk. The old monk is interested in the Yen family, but the Yen family has no cooperation value with them. Today's show is really interesting. Don't think so much. It has nothing to do with us. Anyway, we will know the result later," Luo Changgong said carelessly. After all, it had nothing to do with them. Even if the Yen family cooperated with the old monk, they could not stop it. Yang Deng nodded and said no more. At this time, many acquaintances had come over to greet them. They could only deal with them. At this moment, Qin Shing and his companions were still walking on the highway around the city. They did not know that Yen Chaozong had prepared such a big scene for him. At that time, he would be famous in Jiangsu and Zhejiang. When it was almost 12 o'clock, Yen Chaozong and Chu Huanqi felt that almost all the guests had arrived. Those who did not come had been informed in advance. So they looked at each other and Chu Huanqi immediately arranged for the main characters to come in. They sent someone to pick up Qin Shing in order to delay him so that all the guests would arrive. On the highway around the city, after receiving the news, two artists immediately chose to speed up to the highway entrance nearest to Sisiyuerong Manor. After that, they went straight to Sisiyuerong Manor. Qin Shing had an idea about the direction of Hangzhou. Seeing the name of the highway entrance, he knew that after they got off the highway, they would also go to Sisiyuerong Manor. It turned out that it was just a smoke bomb. Chang Baji and his companions, who were behind them, also understood and finally felt relieved. More than 10 minutes later, they arrived at Sisiyuerong Manor. The parking lot was full of all kinds of luxury cars. Qin Shing and his companions, who had not gotten off the cars, thought that there would be some important activities in Yuerong Manor today. After all, it was a high-end hotel in Hangzhou, so it was normal for there to be some important activities. Qin Shing got off the car first. Chang Baji, Gu Qingyang and Gu Xiaobo, who were behind him, instantly came up to him. Today they had been fooled. Gu Xiaobo, who had a bad temper, exploded in an instant. After getting off the car, he rushed over and cursed, F***CKU. How dare you fool us? Do you want to die? The other side did not back down either. Both sides immediately confronted each other. Chang Baji said unhappily, "Xiaobo, step back." Gu Qingyang also pulled Gu Xiaobo. Gu Xiaobo stepped back resentfully. The bodyguard who was responsible for picking up Qin Shing chuckled and said, "Mr. Qin, I'm sorry to have made you suffer. This way, please." Qin Shing was still calm. He smiled gently and followed the group of people sent by Yen Chaozong into Yuerong Manor. Chang Baji and his companions stayed by his side to protect him. At this time, Hao Lei, Tang Shi, and the others also came out and joined Qin Shing, Chang Baji, and the others. Hao Lei walked to Chang Baji in a hurry and said, "Lao Chang, something seems wrong." Chang Baji was surprised and asked, "What's wrong?" Hao Lei had found something wrong a long time ago. However, he did not think of it at first. Later, he felt that something was wrong, so he sent someone to investigate. It was not until he managed to sneak into the banquet hall that he found that Chu Huanxi and Yan Chaozong were greeting the guests at the entrance of the banquet hall. They were together with the famous guests in Hangzhou City today, and they were the protagonists. If Hao Lei still did not understand what was going on, there must be something wrong with his IQ. It must be a trap set by Yan Chaozong for Qin Sheng. At the beginning, when Yan Chaozong told him about this, Hao Lei was a little shocked. It did not occur to him that Yan Chaozong had come to Hangzhou, so Qin Sheng was in danger. He wanted to ask Qin Sheng, but was stopped by Yan Chaozong, who said that the two of them had reached a settlement. Today was a formal settlement and they would talk about it later. Hao Lei gave up. He also felt that it was not a good time. After hearing Hao Lei's story, Chang Baji's expression changed instantly. He seemed to have guessed something. Would Qin Sheng still insist? If he really insisted, he would not be able to stay in Hangzhou anymore. Chang Baji immediately stopped Qin Sheng and said, "Something unexpected happened." Qin Sheng frowned and asked, "What happened?" Chang Baji told the whole thing in the most concise words. After Qin Sheng heard it, he looked a little embarrassed, and his eyes were a little sinister. It did not occur to him that Yan Chaozong would play such a trick. "Do you still want to go in now?" Chang Baji kindly reminded him. Actually, his meaning was already very obvious. He did not recommend Qin Sheng to go in again. Qin Sheng began to think carefully. It only took him a few seconds to make a decision. He was very grateful to Yan Chaozong for giving him such an opportunity, which allowed him to overturn the previous decision he had made. He was suddenly enlightened, as if he had finally climbed over the mountain. In front of him was a boundless plain, and there was no sense of oppression anymore. Qin Sheng laughed out loud and said, "Go, why not? Since we are here, let's take things as they come. Young Master Yan has prepared a big show. If I, the main character, don't go in, how can I play this show? We have to give face to young Master Yan." When he said this, Qin Sheng did not care about the presence of Yan Chaozong's helpers at all. After hearing this, Chang Baji was completely relieved. Originally, he was worried about the situation today. Now it seemed that Qin Sheng had put down everything and made the wisest choice. This was the Qin Sheng he knew. So he said happily, "Okay, then let's go." Qin Sheng did not have any burden at all, and he was in a very good mood. Because Yan Chaozong had cut off all his escape routes, what else did he need to be afraid of? After the small episode, the direction of the situation was completely reversed. Then the crowd followed Qin Sheng and walked into Sisiyuerong Manor in a mighty manner. In the hotel of Sisiyuerong Manor, Chu Huanxi and Yan Chaozong were waiting for Qin Sheng's arrival. Logically speaking, they should have come in by now. Why hadn't they received the notice? They could not help but wonder, "Do you think Qin Sheng will get cold feet?" Yan Chaozong sneered and said, "I don't care whether he comes or not. Anyway, even if he kowtows to me and admits his mistake, I will not let him go." This was the real Yan Chaozong. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.